divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Buddhist Life, No Fighting or Competing. Early morning, land and water dock. Wei Hong stood by the river alone, looking at the rolling canal water in front of him, and then looking at the endless dock by the river. He couldn't help but sigh. What an important dock. It carries freight from several states, supplies millions of people in Chengdu with survival materials, and hundreds of thousands of people rely on it for their livelihoods. It has almost developed into a small town. It only takes half a cup of tea to ride a horse from the city gate to here. Such a short distance does not delay Wei Hong's practice and pig slaughtering. This is also the fundamental reason why he accepted the dispatch of Prince Duan's mansion and continued to maintain his identity as Li Tizhu. Walking all the way over, you can see the crowds on the dock. Various building ships and cargo ships are crowded on the river. There are a lot of cars and countless drivers and workers on the official road. Wei Hong rode his horse slowly, with a fierce look on his face and the style of a scale-armored horse, which made the surrounding merchants and drivers avoid him and dare not collide. Just not far from the dock, a group of burly men blocked the intersection. They were wearing the clothes of the Tiger Head Gang. A middle-aged strong man with a stubble on his face and a skinny man with a gloomy face stood in the front. Both of them were riding horses. Dozens of Tiger Head Gang men stood with their arms folded behind them. They immediately looked aggressive and scared the passing merchants away. Wei Hong stopped a few feet away from them. The two looked at each other and suddenly laughed. "Brother Li, long time no see." The skinny man smiled and arched his hands, saying, "We have heard that the government will send you here to take charge. We are looking forward to it. Come on. Let me introduce you. This is Fan Tai, the current leader of the Tiger Head Gang. He is at the initial stage of the bone refining realm. Master Li. Welcome." Fan Tai politely clasped his fists and forced a smile on his face. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but sigh. The skinny man was also a guard of the Prince Duan's mansion. He had seen him when he was hunting the iron wing green scale python. His name was Zhao Laozhen. The two had a very ordinary relationship and could barely be considered as nodding acquaintances. As for this Fan Tai, he had a bit of a background. He was related to a housekeeper of the Prince Duan's mansion by marriage and was also a strong man in the early stage of the bone refining realm. On weekdays, he sat in a place to handle some trivial matters for the Prince Duan's mansion. 1,000 or 2,000 people on the street obeyed his orders. He was so powerful that he could get whatever he wanted. Wei Hong used to look up to such a person. Even if he joins Huji Butcher Shop as a butcher, he would not be in the eyes of the other party. But now the leader of the Tiger Head Gang came to greet him in person, which was a great honor for him, or it was an honor for the Prince Duan mansion behind him. "Thank you, brother, Boss Fan." Wei Hong politely bowed and said, "Thank you both for coming to greet me. I am lucky to be here. I am lazy and don't like to care about many trivial matters. I am only interested in practicing martial arts. If there is anything I don't understand, I hope you can teach me. Brother Li, you are welcome. Ha ha ha, come on, come in." The tense expressions of the two men relaxed and smiled. At the same time, they enthusiastically welcomed him to the dock. Wei Hong obviously noticed that after he said these nice words, the resistance on the faces of the two men immediately decreased. Obviously, they were also afraid that he would be unruly after he came and affect their respective interests. Wei Hong had a coping strategy for this. He came here to spend his days and didn't want to care about anything. He didn't want to fight for any rights and interests, so you can do as you please. Based on his Buddhist attitude, Zhao Laozhen and Fan Tai were in a very good mood. They put on warm smiles and welcomed him directly to a restaurant on Wharf Street. They generously booked the entire third floor to entertain him. There were 7 or 8 tables around. All the people present were high-ranking members of the Tiger Head Gang, plus some wharf merchants. After the group of people toasted each other, both the host and the guests were very happy. Zhao Laozhen and Fan Tai were satisfied with his tactfulness, and Wei Hong was also satisfied with the compliments of everyone. He accepted all the toasts and soon became brothers with everyone. After most of the day, a lot of people in the restaurant were drunk. Only Wei Hong, Zhao Laozhen, and Fan Tai were still sitting firmly at the table. Brother, you have a good alcohol tolerance. Ziliozan couldn't help but sighed. If I were 10 years younger, I would not be afraid of you, and I could drink for 3 days and 3 nights, but not now. Ha ha ha. Fantai laughed heartily. We are in our prime, how can we look old? Brother Z, you'd better not act like a child. Let's not talk about this. Ziliozan raised his hand and called a member of the Tiger Hut gang, and said, Brother Lee, you are tired after running around for a long time today. I asked someone to arrange a small courtyard for you. All the merchants in Famtiana have given gifts. You can go back and take a look. In addition, if there is anything you want to see, just ask someone to take you around. The scenery at the pier is quite good. Fantai and I are not good at drinking, so we won't accompany you for long. I hope you don't mind. Wei Hong smiled and said tactfully, in that case, Lee will not bother you anymore. I don't know much about the pier. Brother Z, if you have anything to do, just ask someone to come and notify me. I will just follow your orders. Okay, okay. Zilao Sam smiled with satisfaction and stood up to see him off. Wei Hong then followed the Tiger Hut gang down the restaurant and walked along the wharf street to a small courtyard on the street. The location here is excellent and convenient, it is a good place to live. 6 maids, 2 servants, and 2 courtesans had been waiting in the courtyard. When they saw Wei Hong coming, they immediately greeted him respectfully. Hello, Master Li. What is this? Wei Hong asked knowingly. The Tiger Hut gang member who led the way said with a smile, Master Li, this is what the gang leader asked us to arrange for you. If you are not satisfied, you can change them at any time. From now on, they will be responsible for serving your daily life. There are also some gifts in the room. Thank your gang leader for me. Wei Hong did not refuse, but asked, in addition, does the gang leader Fan have any other arrangements for me? No, no. The strong man shook his head and said, you are a distinguished guest from the palace, how can I ask you to work? Anyway, I just sent you here to supervise. You can walk around when you have nothing to do. If you have anything to do, just tell me. Okay. Go away. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction, raised his hand and hugged the 2 courtesans, 2 beauties. Let's play first. Master, don't be impatient. Oh, annoying, let's serve you and rest. The 2 courtesans laughed coquettishly and were half-heartedly hugged by him into the room. Soon, all kinds of rippling sounds came out, which made the maids and servants blush and made the strong man envious. He hurried back to the restaurant and told the situation to Zilao Samfantai. The 2 smiled at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that this guy is very smart. Fantai sighed. Smart is good. Zilao San chuckled, it won't affect us if he is so tactful. The most important thing is that we all make money. That's right. Fantai smiled with satisfaction. Chapter 152, Martial Arts Fanatic, Idea of Practicing Martial Arts Underwater. A night of madness in the morning, Wei Hong was refreshed and sat at the dining table in the hall of the small courtyard, drinking porridge and enjoying the service of the maids and servants. Thinking about the absurdity of last night, he couldn't help but sigh that this is life. For this reason, he rarely got up in the middle of the night to kill pigs. Thinking about a loss of 700 or 800 points of vitality, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. No, I must not fall like this again. I am a man who wants to climb to the top. Wine and sex have misled me. From today, I will quit drinking. Wei Hong made up his mind with a firm look. After a simple breakfast, he went to the warehouse and knocked on the piles of gifts. These were sent by merchants at the dock. From beautiful jade to medicinal materials to silk and satin, silver elixir, it can be said that there is everything, and the total value can be several thousand taels. No wonder Lei Peng said that there is a lot of money here, and many people are scrambling to come here. Compared with the boring patrol life in Prince Duan's mansion, this place is really comfortable. In addition, among the many gifts, there was a gift from Ziliozan and Famtai. The 2 of them worked together to send out a gift box, which contained a dagger that could cut iron like mud, plus a silver note of 10,000 taels. Haha. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows and showed a hint of sneer. The other party was giving him a warning. Those who knew what was interesting would get money, and those who didn't would have to use knives. As expected of a man of the world, he did things in a certain way. If Wei Hong had not been impersonating Li Tizhu, he would have been caught by them. Now, he was very Buddhist and didn't want to have anything to do with these people. If you give him money, he would take it. If you send a woman over, he would fall asleep. In short, He would definitely not suffer any loss. Come here. Wei Hong called out casually, and 2 servants and 6 maids came over respectfully, standing with their hands down respectfully waiting for instructions. He knew very well that these people were all specially selected by Fantai to keep an eye on him. However, he didn't care at all and directly ordered, "Leave 2 of you at home to serve Miss Liu and Miss Ji, and leave 1 to take me around. It's not appropriate for Li to be new here and not even know the road. The rest of you take the carriage to send the gifts to King Chamber of Commerce and ask their shopkeepers how to convert the things into cash." Yes. Everyone agreed. Immediately, a servant led the way to greet him and go out for a stroll. In addition, 2 maids stayed to serve the courtesan who had been tossed all night. The rest of the people were busy loading the gifts to the King Chamber of Commerce to exchange for money. Wei Hong didn't need to hide from people for such a blatant arrangement, and he was not afraid of a lot of spies following him. He walked out of the courtyard with his people in a swagger. "Master, where do you want to go for a stroll?" the servant asked with a smile. "Just stroll around and get to know the way around so you don't get lost in the unfamiliar place." Wei Hong asked casually, "What's your name?" "I'm Ergauzi." The servant smiled flatteringly. "I was originally from the nearby Ligia village. Fortunately, I sold myself to do odd jobs at the dock, so I can make a living." Wei Hong nodded and said nothing more. He stood with his hands behind his back and strolled along the bustling dock street, while ordering, "You seem to be very familiar with this place. Tell me what you know." "Yes," Ergauzi introduced with ease, "our water and land dock is built along the river, a total length of 13 miles, with a total of 108 battlements. Every cargo ship will line up at a familiar battlement to unload before docking, thus supporting countless laborers and merchants. If we walk along this dock street, we can see the 12 battlements and warehouses controlled by the Tiger Head Gang. Other forces are forbidden to enter this area. You have to pay for unloading and loading goods, and the daily profit is terrifying." Ergauzi introduced. Wei Hong soon saw the bustling scene of cargo unloading at the dock. A large amount of cargo was either transported to various places in the capital or stored in a large warehouse at the dock. Every place was bustling with people, and it was really more prosperous than the capital. As for the dock street, people were coming and going. Merchants doing business here definitely made a fortune every day. "Sir, do you want to take a look at the dock?" Ergauzi asked tentatively. "Not interested." Wei Hong deliberately said impatiently, "A bunch of working peasants, what's the point of visiting a dirty and smelly place?" Ergauzi breathed a sigh of relief when he heard it, and asked with a smile, "How about we go for a drink? There are many restaurants in Wharf Street with good wine. If you want to go to the brothels to listen to music, I'm familiar with them, and there are many young and old in the brothels. No need, just help me find a suitable place to practice martial arts." Wei Hong said, "I'm in my prime now, and I still want to make a breakthrough in the bone refining realm. I didn't expect that you are also a martial arts fanatic." Ergauzi complimented and said with a smile, "There are many empty mud flats near the wharf, and there are mountains and forests not far away. If you are not satisfied, I will report to the leader and ask him to find you a training ground." "No need." Wei Hong waved his hand and said, "I make too much noise when practicing martial arts, and I need a quiet place where no one will disturb me and will not expose the secrets of my martial arts." "Master, there are all kinds of people here, how can there be an absolutely safe place?" Ergauzi smiled and joked, "We can't jump into the river to practice, right?" "Huh?" Wei Hong's eyes lit up. Suddenly, he found this idea very interesting. Ergauzi's words were originally meant as a joke, but they gave him a good inspiration. Why must he practice martial arts on the shore? Why not practice in the river? I've heard of people practicing martial arts under waterfalls before. If I practice martial arts in the river, wouldn't it be more appropriate? First, under the heavy water pressure, it will become very difficult to swing fists, feet, and mountain-breaking hammers. The difficulty of training will increase instantly, and the effect of training will definitely be far beyond the usual. Second, even if I make a big noise under the river, no one will spy on me. I don't have to worry about my trump card being known to others. Great, great. The more Wei Hong thought about it, the more interesting it became, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Master, are you okay?" Ergauzi slapped himself twice and said in a panic, I was just joking, please don't mind it." "It's okay, your suggestion is good." Wei Hong threw a silver ingot over and ordered directly, "Find me a good place to practice martial arts in the water." "Ah." Urgozi was stunned for a long time and thought he was dreaming. But after squeezing the silver ingot in his hand, he immediately laughed and couldn't close his mouth. Okay, master, I have been to the nearby rivers since I was a child, and I will definitely find a good place for you. After that, he excitedly took Wei Hong to the river. The place for practicing martial arts must not be too close to the dock, so as not to make too much noise to affect shipping and loading and unloading, but it can't be too far, and the water can't be too shallow. After a while, Urgozi found a perfect place for Wei Hong. This is a backflow bay located at the crenel of two docks, with docks paved with bluestone slabs on both sides. There is not a single ship on the river that is dozens of feet wide. Chapter 153, The Talent of Turtle Breathing is Shocking. Master, this is the middle area of the number 6 and number 7 crenels of our tiger head gang. The water is at least 3 meters deep. Because it is in the bay area of the river, the current is very fierce and it is not suitable for docking ships to load and unload goods. It has been empty since it was built. Fishing and shrimping boats dare not dock here casually on weekdays. No one cares what noise you make underwater. Urgozi introduced happily. Wei Hong looked around and was very satisfied. There are crenels extending from the dock on both sides. No matter how much you make underwater, the waves will be blocked by the stone dam and will not affect the river in the end. Not bad. Wei Hong commented with satisfaction. This place is not far from the courtyard, just right for my daily practice. Master, I'm glad you are satisfied. Urgozi nodded and said, do you need anything else? Or do you want to go somewhere else? No need, go back first. Wei Hong waved his hand and said, wait until I bring the weapons over before practicing. Yes. Urgozi said no more. Wei Hong excitedly returned to the small courtyard, rode on his armored horse and headed straight for the palace. He got a sturdy ox cart and 2 large boxes, put the broken army mountain collapse hammer into the boxes, and then let the armored horse pull it to the water and land dock. The 2 mountain collapse hammers weighed a total of 7,200 kilograms. Such a terrifying weight cannot be carried by an armored horse. But pulling the cart alone was not difficult for Xiao He. After a busy period, Wei Hong did not return to the dock until noon. Master Li, what are you busy with? Do you need our help? The members of the Tiger Head gang on the dock gathered around. Go away, it's none of your business. Wei Hong said impatiently, I just want to use this place as a training ground, don't worry about it. Practice. Everyone looked at each other and didn't understand what this meant. Wei Hong was too lazy to explain too much, and directly threw the 2 boxes into the water. With a splash, the hammer naturally sank down, and it was not exposed to anyone from beginning to end. The next moment, he took off his coat and jumped directly into the rolling river. Everyone was so scared that they almost went to rescue him. Oh my god, he really jumped into the river to practice. Isn't this crazy? I have never heard of anyone practicing in the water. Will there be any accidents? Master Li is a strong man in the late stage of the blood refining realm. How can we understand his mind? Let's stay out of his business. Everyone talked about it. No one was willing to leave the riverside, but wanted to see how he practiced. The river water was green and visibility was extremely poor. They couldn't see the situation under the water, but Wei Hong relied on his eagle-eye talent to see the situation within a few feet around him. This river bottom was full of river sand, silt, and gravel. There are still a lot of fish, shrimps and water plants at the bottom of the water, but there is nothing to be surprised about. It's really good to practice here, but it's a bit difficult. Wei Hong couldn't help but smile. He tried to perform a set of collapse mountain fist opening moves. As a result, the water pressure from all directions was like an invisible restraint, causing his boxing skills to be slightly deformed. At the same time, the unique breathing method of collapse mountain fist could not be completed. After all, you can't breathe in water. As a result, the effect of practicing boxing is naturally not good. Wei Hong practiced for a while and felt something was wrong. Not only did he not achieve any training effect, but he was very uncomfortable holding his breath, and the oxygen was gradually consumed. Just when he was frowning, 2 prompts suddenly appeared on the system panel. Congratulations to the master for comprehending the breath-holding skill, current proficiency, entry 1/100. Congratulations to the master for comprehending the swimming skill, current proficiency, entry 1/100, add points. Wei Hong didn't even think about it, and decisively chose to add points. After a series of crazy points, The two ordinary skills changed dramatically in an instant. Ling. The breath-holding skill has reached its limit. Ling. The swimming skill has reached its limit. Ling. The breath-holding skill and the swimming skill have automatically merged, and the talent has been realized. Turtle breath. Is this possible? Wei Hong had a flash of inspiration. A lot of strange knowledge suddenly appeared in his mind. It was as if he was bored knowing how to breathe internally. The state of holding his breath was quickly relieved. He did not see any breathing movements from his mouth and nose. He obtained enough oxygen from the outside world just by opening and closing his pores. At the same time, Wei Hong's heart began to slowly drop, until it almost stopped beating. The frightened fish around him all returned to normal. They could not perceive any threat and ignored him directly, as if he was just a big stone. So powerful. Wei Hong was secretly surprised. This turtle breath talent not only allows him to survive normally underwater for a long time, but also allows him to pretend to be dead. It is even effective in hiding his strength. He can completely use this talent to restrain the fluctuations of qi and blood in his body. Even if the enemy is 1 or 2 realms stronger than him, he can't see through his true details. This ability is almost against the sky. Great! Wei Hong almost wanted to laugh out loud. He found that he had discovered another good auxiliary skill. Although it was useless for improving combat effectiveness, it was definitely very useful at certain special moments, especially when lurking and assassinating. He was afraid that he would not be able to find the enemy even if he walked behind him. So far, all the difficulties of practicing martial arts underwater have been solved. Wei Hong grinned and smashed 2 large boxes with one palm. He raised his hand and grabbed the broken army collapsing mountain hammer and swung it vigorously underwater. At the same time, he used his pores to absorb oxygen, and then supplied oxygen to the whole body through the breathing cycle in the abdomen. Although it was not as comfortable as on the shore, he could still practice with difficulty. Boom boom boom. A series of roars sounded underwater. Every time the broken army collapsing mountain hammer was swung, it would withstand amazing resistance. Its already heavy hammer body seemed to be 7 or 8 times heavier, which made Wei Hong's energy consumption multiplied, and the training effect was also multiplied. For a while, it was a mess underwater. It was as if there was a water monster stirring up a storm in the water. The small bay actually raised a shocking wave more than 10 feet high. What's going on? Damn it, Master Li is really practicing martial arts underwater. Nonsense, who else could it be but him? Such a terrifying blood-refining realm martial artist can actually make such a big noise underwater. How is this possible? Doesn't he need to breathe? How can a person hold his breath underwater for so long? Be careful, don't get into trouble, go and inform the gang leader. Everyone was discussing in amazement. Soon, someone rushed to inform Fantai. He had already specifically instructed to pay special attention to this new royal guard, and now that Wei Hong made such a big noise, everyone naturally dared not report it. In a short while, the dock was surrounded by a crowd of people. Chapter 154, Comparison of Strength, Change of Status. What's going on? Why is there so much noise underwater? Is there a water monster making trouble down there? What? Someone is practicing martial arts? Impossible, how is this possible? Did you see him go down there with your own eyes? Who is so powerful? Fantai and Zilao San came one after another. When they saw that the dock was full of people and the river water below was rolling endlessly, they were all stunned on the spot. What's going on? Where is Master Li Wu? Fantai asked with his eyes wide open. Didn't I ask you to take good care of Master Li Wu? Where is he? Boss, he is underwater. A skinny man quickly replied, I saw Master Li driving a carriage over there with my own eyes. He threw 2 large boxes into the water, and then said that he was going to practice martial arts in the water and asked us not to be an eyesore here, and then you saw the scene. Bullshit, what nonsense are you talking about? Fantai scolded angrily. But all the members of the Tiger Head gang around him looked at him with embarrassment, and no one was guilty or panicked, which made him realize that this matter might be true. Good fellow, what kind of martial arts did you practice, Li Tizhu? Zhao Laozhen couldn't help but be surprised at this moment. To be able to stir up such a big commotion underwater, his arm strength is not ordinary amazing. Isn't he only in the late stage of blood refining realm? Maybe his strength has broken through. Fantai snorted coldly. Even if he has broken through, he hasn't reached the bone refining realm yet. Zhao Laozhen said in disbelief, damn it, I am at the peak of blood refining realm and I can't make such a big commotion, can you? Fantai was speechless. He was in the early stage of bone refining realm, and he was not sure that he could do this. As the saying goes, an expert can tell the success or failure with just one move, and even a fool knows how much resistance there will be in the water. How could a person stir up such a big wave? Unless, this guy's arm strength is far beyond that of an ordinary person. Li Tizu is a tall man, maybe he is born with supernatural powers. Fantai frowned and said, this may be explainable, but I don't understand how he can practice in the water without taking a breath. And why did he go to the water to practice? Go, call the servant who serves Master Li. Zilao-san hurriedly ordered the people around him. Soon, Ergozi was called to the dock. He was stunned when he saw the magnificent scene in the water, and couldn't help exclaiming, Master Li really went into the water. What's going on? Tell me. Fantai asked impatiently. Yes, yes, yes. Ergozi was startled, and quickly replied tremblingly, this morning, Master Li asked me to take him around. He has no interest in other places, but only wants to find a secluded place to practice martial arts. He is a martial arts fanatic. I introduced several places to him, but he was not satisfied with them. At that time, he casually complained that he couldn't practice in the river. Who knew that he immediately thought it was a good idea and asked me to find this place. Fantai slapped his forehead in frustration, and suddenly felt that this person was a bit weird. Forget it. Zhao Laozhen smiled awkwardly. How many people from Prince Duan's mansion are simple? They have their own secrets. It's nothing for a martial arts fanatic to make some noise when practicing martial arts. We are afraid that we can't interfere too much? I certainly dare not interfere, but it's fucking weird. Fantai lowered his voice and said, do you have the ability to hold your breath underwater to practice martial arts? Zhao Laozhen was silent for a long time, and finally shook his head slowly. Obviously, none of them could do it. Maybe they could hold their breath in the water for a long time, but who could do such a heaven-defying thing as holding their breath while practicing martial arts? But this guy could not only do it, but also hold it for a long time. How long has he been down there? Fantai asked again. Half a cup of tea. More than that, I've been counting the time, at least a cup of tea. So long? Oh my god. There were gasps again from the crowd. You know, the water and land docks rely on rivers for their livelihood, and who among the people present is not a man who is proficient in water? But the most powerful water ghost can only toss around in the river for half a cup of tea. How can there be such a terrifying person? Maybe Master Li grew up by the river since he was a child and is proficient in water. That's right, just because you can't do it doesn't mean that other martial artists can't do it. Yes, it is said that some innate martial artists can not only control their breath to float in the air, but also live for several months without food or water, so holding their breath is nothing. While everyone was discussing, Wei Hong finally emerged from the water. His ferocious face and explosive muscles. The terrifying aura that had not been restrained just after practicing. The moment he made a move, he shocked everyone. Wei Hong actually heard the discussion of the crowd underwater. He had to temporarily stop practicing when he was in the middle of practicing. Even if he could continue practicing, he had to pretend to breathe to cover it up, so as not to be too shocking. It's out, hey, it's finally out. I said, holding your breath for a cup of tea is long enough, but Master Li can still do it. The doubts in everyone's hearts gradually dissipated. Wei Hong glanced around and landed on Ziliozhen and Fantai. He smiled and bowed his hands and said, I'm sorry, two brothers, the noise was a bit loud, please bear with me. Brother Li, what about you? Ziliozhen and Fantai hesitated for a long time and didn't know what to say. In the end, the two could only smile and say nothing more. While signaling Wei Hong to continue practicing, they dispersed the onlookers. Get out of here, don't watch here, what's so good about it? Can you see it? Fantai scolded, and everyone dispersed. Zilao-san lowered his voice and said, I always feel that this Li Tizu is a bit weird. Who cares if he is weird or not? What does it have to do with us? Fantai sneered and said, what's so strange about him, a martial arts fanatic, thinking of some weird training methods? Anyway, it's okay as long as he doesn't interfere with our money-making. It has nothing to do with us whether he trains himself to death or disabled, so we should not provoke him. That's right. Zilao-san nodded in agreement. If it were yesterday, they might have looked down on Wei Hong a little. They formed gangs, coerced and lured, and sent daggers to intimidate the other party. In their hearts, they looked down on him a little. The two even discussed it. If they found that he was not tactful, they would take the initiative to kill him first, so as not to delay their plan to make money. But now they dare not be so presumptuous. Not to mention Wei Hong's Buddhist attitude, the terrifying strength he inadvertently showed is enough for anyone to not underestimate. This guy is not easy to provoke. Fan Tai frowned and commented, if we are on the shore, we can still fight him. If we are underwater, tut tut tut. Damn, who wants to fight him? Zilao San said unhappily, we are colleagues, do you understand? We are all brothers in the family, how can you think of fighting him? You are really crazy. Fan Tai. Please subscribe, please vote, please read, please reward. Chapter 155, at noon on the winter solstice, a battle is scheduled at Hanshin Temple. Next, Wei Hong fell into hard training again. He rushed between the butcher shop and the water and land dock every day, constantly training his martial arts underwater to achieve the point where his strength continued to improve. In his spare time, he drank a little wine with Ziliozan, Fan Tai and others. He also vented some of his anger on the two canaries raised in the small yard of the dock. His life was very comfortable. At the same time, because of his unique way of practicing martial arts, he also became famous near the water and land dock, and everyone had to call him Master Li when they saw him. But comfortable days are always short-lived. Just when Wei Hong's strength was approaching the peak of the blood-refining realm step by step and was about to touch the edge of the bone-refining realm, a letter of challenge was delivered to him. In the small yard of the dock, Manager Zhao of King Chamber of Commerce sat on one side with an anxious look on his face. He sighed and said, this morning, a burly man walked into the hall of our Chamber of Commerce, left this letter of challenge and turned away. At that time, we couldn't tell where he came from. We only heard that he was a bodyguard from Wei Hong escort agency. Look at this, it's going to be bad now, right? You shouldn't have been so cruel at that time. Mu Sui would have died, but he ended up getting us into trouble. It's a lot of trouble. Wei Hong looked at the letter of challenge in his hand in silence. There were only a few rough characters on it, noon on the winter solstice, Hanshin Temple. Finally, it was stamped with Shuangang's private seal. Most people may not understand what this means, but Wei Hong knew it very well. It was obvious that Shuanggang, the head of Wei Hong escort agency, knew the news of the death of his master and sister-in-law, and he couldn't wait to send someone to send a letter of challenge to seek revenge. What an open-minded head of the escort. He was too lazy to check Wei Hong's background, nor was he too lazy to do other tricks. He just sent the letter of challenge to King Chamber of Commerce. He meant that you had to fight even if you didn't want to. The Chamber of Commerce has just got on the right track. Shopkeeper Zhao hesitated and said, if we ignore him, he will definitely not agree. At that time, a strong man in the bone refining realm will be the enemy of our Chamber of Commerce. It will definitely be a lot of trouble. Don't worry, I will settle this matter. Wei Hong waved his hand indifferently, stood up and said, you go back first. Okay. Shopkeeper Zhao said no more, and got up and left. Wei Hong squinted his eyes and pondered for a moment, then sneered and burned the letter of challenge. Looking at the black ash on the ground, he couldn't help but fall into confusion. He had been sending King and Yuke to keep an eye on Wei Hong escort agency, and had never seen a large-scale escort team return to the city. Did this Shuanggang come back quietly, or did he send the letter of challenge before the people arrived? No matter what. Now the other party is in the dark and he is in the light. It seems that there is really no way except to fight. If he dared to retreat, the reputation he had built up before would be ruined. He could abandon his identity as Li Tizhu and retreat unscathed, but what about Yan King and the others? At that time, King Chamber of Commerce would definitely be implicated by him and be suppressed by all parties. A strong man in the bone refining realm does not need to do it himself. He only needs to spread the word and there will be many people who will take advantage of him. At that time, Wei Hong's financial path will be gone. So we must fight, and we must win. Wei Hong sneered and shouted to the outside of the door, come here. Master, your order. Ergozi hurried in to ask. Go and ask Master Zhao San and your gang leader to come over for a chat, and tell them that I'm waiting for them at the old place. Wei Hong ordered. Yes. Ergozi took the order and left. That evening, Wei Hong hosted Ziliozan and Fan Tai again at the Wharf Street restaurant. The two of them were curious about what happened, But when Li mentioned that Shuanggang had issued a letter of challenge, they looked at each other in surprise. "Brother Li, this Shuanggang is not simple," Fan Tai said with a shocked face. "This guy has traveled all over the country for so many years. He is definitely a battle-hardened character. Even the strong men in the bone refining realm have been killed more than once. How did you provoke him?" "It was just an accident." Wei Hong smiled awkwardly. "I just wanted to make some extra money by relying on King Chamber of Commerce, but Mu Sui wanted to force his way out, and he killed him directly, so I got into trouble with this guy." This. Fan Tai and Zilao San were shocked again. "He also killed Mu Rui? Good guy. This kid is really hiding well. Just because you can kill Mu Sui doesn't mean you can beat Shuanggang." Fan Tai analyzed seriously. Although the peak of the blood refining realm and the early stage of the bone refining realm are only one realm apart, the difference between them is definitely as different as heaven and earth. What's more, Shuanggang is neither a rookie who has just entered the bone refining realm, nor a fake trick like me who relies on secret medicines. He is a ruthless man who has experienced hundreds of battles. Trouble. Ziliozan also had a headache and said, "Why don't you go back to the palace and find a few captains for protection? Anyway, with the identity of the palace, the other party dare not do anything to you." "No." Wei Hong shook his head and chuckled. "I must go to accept the challenge. They have issued a challenge openly. If I don't go, won't I lose the face of the palace?" This reason left Ziliozan speechless. He hesitated for a moment and asked back, "You asked us to come to the banquet, don't you want us to support you?" "Yes, since the other party wants to fight, let's fight." Wei Hong sneered and said, "But in order to prevent the other party from doing anything, it's always good to have someone to support you." "Okay. Don't worry, brother, we will support you." "Yes, with us here, he won't be able to do anything else." Ziliozan and Fan Tai agreed. It's not that they are asked to fight in person, but just bring some people to strengthen their momentum. At the same time, they can witness the fight with their own eyes, so they are naturally happy. Wei Hong has never been a high-profile person, but he found that his identity as Li Ti's who could not afford to be low-key. Since he killed Mu Sui, he seemed to be pushed in front of people, and the financial path tied to the King Chamber of Commerce made him have to be strong. So, if you want to fight, fight to your heart's content. And he didn't want to fight a death fight without any benefit for no reason. Since he had to fight anyway, why not fight openly in front of everyone? Once the counterattack against a bone refining realm is successful, the name of Li Ti's will surely spread far and wide. At that time, not only will he be reused in the Prince Duan's mansion and gain more benefits, but he can also break through to the bone refining realm and seek the opportunity to enter the second floor of the Sutra repository again. Finally, under the great reputation, the financial path of King Chamber of Commerce will be more stable. So Wei Hong considered many aspects before deciding to ask the two to support. "Thank you, two brothers, for your kindness." Wei Hong raised his glass solemnly and said, "The time is set at noon on the winter solstice 3 days later, at Hanshin Temple 20 miles west of the city. I hope you two brothers will arrive on time." "Don't worry, I will definitely arrive." Fan Tai thought for a while, then took out a booklet and said, "This is some experience essays I summarized after breaking through the bone refining realm, as well as some common sense of fighting in the bone refining realm. Take it back and study it." "Thank you, Brother Fan." Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 The Secret of the Bone Refining Realm, Turning Hidden Power into Clever Power. Fan Tai's gift solved Wei Hong's urgent need. As the saying goes, knowing yourself and the enemy can lead to victory in every battle. Although he was confident that he was invincible in the blood refining realm, he had never had any experience fighting against an enemy who was one realm higher than himself. How exactly was the bone refining realm stronger than the blood refining realm? He knew nothing about it. Wei Hong had originally wanted to go to the Sutra Pavilion in Prince Duan's mansion to look for a few more books. The notes that Fan Tai sent him in return did save him some effort. After the banquet, Wei Hong returned to Wei's house in Xianbao Lane and carefully studied the practice notes. Fan Tai looked like a careless person, but he had a good handwriting. It recorded many insights into practice, which made people suddenly enlightened. It turns out that the difference between the bone refining realm and the blood refining realm lies in the use of dark energy. In the blood refining realm, the dark energy confrontation is mostly simple and rough, and it is best to crush the opponent with force. The competition is often the foundation of the warriors. After the bone refining realm, the force starts from the shin bone and hits along the flesh and blood. The power will be more fierce, but the dark energy has changed from hard and fierce to clever energy. Wei Hong was a little confused. I don't understand how the dark energy changes from hard and fierce to gentle and clever energy. Could it be that clever energy is better than hard and fierce power? After continuing to study, he realized that clever energy is really stronger than hard and fierce dark energy. It is more widely used and more flexible in fighting. It is definitely not comparable to hard and fierce. For example, when the opponent punches, the dark energy rushes fiercely. The strong men in the bone refining realm only need a clever energy to guide the body to avoid the attack. If they can't avoid it, they can also use the skill of 4 ounces to move 1,000 pounds to guide the enemy's force into the ground, and even achieve the degree of counterattack. If the strong men in the blood refining realm are just a bunch of reckless men who can only fight head-on. The strong men in the bone refining realm are a group of martial arts masters who can easily fly over the eaves and walls, fight flexibly and changeably, and can take people's lives with a raise of their hands. In short, 1 point of cleverness is equivalent to 10 points of recklessness. The two sides are naturally judged. The strong men in the bone refining realm need to constantly strengthen their bones and make their bodies stronger so that the body can withstand stronger dark energy bursts. At the same time, they must master the exquisite skills of using dark energy to kill all sides in battle, so as not to become a living target for others. At this time, Wei Hong realized that he had underestimated the bone refining realm. Even a strong man in the bone refining realm who has accumulated secret medicines is not something that anyone can despise, let alone a ruthless enemy like Gang. The other party asked him to settle the grievances in Hanshin Temple, and he was afraid that he was also thinking of knocking the mountain and shaking the tiger. If he was careless, he would easily capsize in the gutter. Fortunately, it was Famtai's essay that gave him a general impression of the bone refining realm, so that he could be mentally prepared in advance. There are still 3 days left. I can't break through to the bone refining realm in such a short time. But I can use the thunder sound body tempering talent of the thunder sound lion roaring technique to temper my bones first, so that I can become stronger. Wei Hong pondered for a moment, threw away his notes and stepped into the training room. He was seen setting up a formation with his eyes slightly narrowed, and the blood and qi slowly gathered in his throat. He took a deep breath into his abdomen, and his throat began to vibrate slightly. This sound was like the roar of a dragon or a tiger, but it was like no one was making a sound. It was similar to a high-frequency sound wave, which did not disturb anyone in the silent night. Instead, the waves were slowly transmitted to the bones of the whole body. Roar. Wei Hong tried his best to suppress the sound he wanted to roar. Because he knew that the thunder sound body tempering had to be in a state of roaring or not roaring to achieve the best tempering effect. At this moment, his whole body bones felt a little itchy for no reason. It seemed that subtle changes were happening deep in the solid bones. Every time the blood and qi circulated, it could always take away a trace of impurities. The strength of his body began to change during this tempering, and the strength that his flesh, blood and bones could bear was also slowly increasing. One last little bit, one last little bit. Wei Hong murmured unwillingly. At this moment, his qi and blood were already far more than that of ordinary peak blood refining realm warriors, but he still felt that there was a little bit of incompleteness, and this little bit was enough to prevent him from reaching the peak of the true blood refining realm, and his qi and blood were not smooth enough. Huh? Wei Hong exhaled a long breath of waste air. He thought that the more he was at this moment, the less anxious he should be. It is better to practice the thunder sound body tempering honestly and use the water grinding kung fu to achieve complete qi and blood perfection. In short, it is impossible to break through to the bone refining realm within 3 to 5 days. Just adjust your state to the best. In the second half of the night, Wei Hong arrived at the butcher shop as usual. At this time, the Zhuji butcher shop was already brightly lit. The young men and the servants were preparing in full swing. Pot after pot of boiling water was boiled, and everyone was sharpening their knives and waiting to work. Looking at the young boys' tender and energetic faces, sniffing the smelly and mixed air in the butcher shop, his restless heart gradually calmed down, no longer agitated by the fight with Shuanggang, and there was only absolute calmness. Start. Wei Hong waved his hand, and the boys immediately got busy. Now he didn't even need to catch the pigs and sheep himself. After practicing the secret art of blood fusion, the boys' strength improved by leaps and bounds. Not only did they all enter the leather refining realm, but their strength was skyrocketing every day. Now they cooperated in pairs, and it was very easy to control the pigs and sheep. Wei Hong only needed to sharpen the knife by the chopping board, and when the pigs and sheep were sent over, he could cut them to bleed them, and then the next batch of boys would immediately drag the pigs and sheep away, split them, peel them and cut the meat. Each process was completed neatly. Killing pigs was easier than working on an assembly line. Looking at these boys from being ignorant to being able to take charge of their own affairs, he still felt mixed emotions and was quite relieved. "Brother Hong, are you worried?" Luan Zioki was very thoughtful and noticed the change in his mood. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows but didn't answer. He just said abruptly, "I have something to go out for in 3 days. If I don't come home before dusk, you will take my grandfather and others to the north to hide for a few years. There are some banknotes under the floor of my room." "What do you mean by this?" Luan Zioki was shocked. "Nothing, just in case." Wei Hong curled his lips and smiled, "But I think this arrangement is probably useless." Luan Zioki was silent for a long time. Although he didn't know what happened, he probably guessed that Wei Hong would do something more dangerous. He suddenly hated his weakness. If he could also have the strength of the blood refining realm and the bone refining realm, why would Wei Hong not even tell him what happened? "Be careful and come back alive." Luan Zioki took a deep breath and whispered, "Grandpa Wei, I will take good care of you, don't worry." "Yes." Wei Hong smiled and nodded, without a trace of worry in his heart. This is a promise between men, he can trust it. Chapter 157, 8,000 Arm Strength, Fate Plays Tricks on Us. Winter solstice. Hanshin Temple outside the city. A heavy snow fell, and the mountains and forests were covered with layers of frost. At a glance, everything was white, adding a bit of indescribable beauty. The small temple has long been dilapidated. The temple, which has been in disrepair for a long time, often leaks rain, and the mottled walls have been collapsed by the wind and snow. There was only an old monk in ragged clothes, holding a broom and silently sweeping the snow. In this quiet atmosphere, a group of people rushed in noisily and destroyed the artistic conception. At the foot of the mountain, dozens of strong men rode their horses. When these people walked up the stone steps to the front of the mountain temple, they saw the old monk who was sweeping the floor, and 5 strong men wearing Wei Hong escort agency clothes, standing by with their arms folded. Wei Hong escort agency. Tiger Head Gang. The two groups looked at each other and were all surprised. Fan Tai and Zilao San obviously knew Shuanggang. Their eyes fell on a tall and strong figure, like a brown bear, with a huge axe weighing thousands of pounds at his feet. He was Shuanggang, who was famous for his fear of bandits in various states and had escorted the convoy for more than 10 years without a single failure. "What? The Tiger Head Gang also wants to get involved in this matter?" Shuanggang's voice was loud and vague with a hint of disdain. "Haha." Fan Tai bowed and said, "I'm sorry, Big Escort Shang. Brother Li is a close friend of ours. Today, we specially came to support a battle to prevent anyone from making small moves. If you honestly challenge us to a fight, we will naturally not interfere. If you want to fight in a group, we will not sit idly by. Okay, everyone can rest assured." Shuanggang sneered and said, "My brothers will never take action. Those who kill my master, come out and fight. No matter who wins or loses, this matter can be resolved. I guarantee it with my head." "Oh." Fan Tai and Zilao San looked at each other, both speechless. Shuanggang is a smart guy. He challenged the opponent to a fight before he even figured out to kill his master. Regardless of the outcome, he could keep the situation to a minimum. Even if he killed the opponent, he would not offend Prince Duan's mansion. This kind of person may seem rough, but he is actually very careful. He is a ruthless person who has been escorting for more than 10 years and never makes any mistakes. Don't underestimate him." Fan Tai frowned and said, "I don't even dare to fight this guy. It is said that his single-arm strength is far beyond that of ordinary people and has reached 8,000 kilograms. 8,000. Zilao San gasped in shock. You should know that the arm strength of ordinary peak warriors in the blood refining realm is at most 4,800 kilograms, and some people with natural supernatural powers may be able to reach 6,000 kilograms. As a martial artist in the early stage of the bone refining realm, Shanggang actually has an arm strength of 8,000 kilograms, which proves that he is not an ordinary person. He has either reached the initial limit or has a deep foundation. This battle is not easy to fight. Fan Tai continued, the giant axe in Shanggang's hand weighs 1,800 kilograms. He has to rely on a carriage to travel on weekdays. Even in the army, there are few weapons that are so heavy. One axe is said to kill both people and ghosts. Even I dare not take it head-on. Hiss. Zhao Laozhen couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Imagine the scene of a giant axe weighing 1,800 kilograms falling down, and he couldn't help but feel numb on his scalp. Who would want to fight? What? Shanggang was already a little impatient at this time. He looked around and asked coldly, who is the dog thief who killed my master and junior sister? Come out and fight. Since you have accepted the letter of challenge, don't hide it. Don't be impatient, Shang De Biao Tao, the people haven't come yet. Fan Tai just replied, and saw a carriage slowly approaching on the official road at the foot of the mountain. There were 2 extra large boxes on the cart. The wheels left 2 deep marks on the ground, and from time to time, there were creaking sounds due to the heavy load. It was vaguely visible that the driver was a strong man. Here they come. Zilao-san reminded. Everyone looked over. When they saw the carriage stopped at the foot of the mountain, the strong man took out 2 extra large hammers from the 2 large boxes, and then carried them slowly up the steps. Everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. This? Is this Master Li's weapon? My god, such a big hammer. Good guy, the hammerhead is bigger than our water tank. It can't be hollow, right? It's possible. If it's solid, wouldn't it weigh several thousand pounds? Who in the world uses such a heavy hammer? Haha, let's get 2 hollow hammers as weapons someday. Just looking at them will scare people. Everyone was talking and laughing, full of jokes. Only Shanggang's eyes slowly became solemn. He found that wherever Wei Hong stepped on, a deep pit would fall directly into it, and the stone steps that had been in disrepair for a long time were broken into pieces. It didn't look like he was carrying a hollow hammer to scare people. The peak of the blood refining realm? Such a huge force. Shanggang murmured, even if you killed my master, only this kind of person would be able to kill him with 1 punch. It's definitely you, no mistake. As he spoke, his heart was already filled with murderous intent. The fierce aura swept out like a surging river, shockling everyone's face to turn pale and retreat repeatedly. No one dared to stand within 10 feet of him. Shanggang of Wei Hong Escort Agency, please teach me. As soon as Wei Hong walked up to the mountain temple, Shanggang couldn't help but shout and clasped his fists a few dozen feet away. The aura on his body was eager to try, like a volcano that could erupt at any time. Li Tizhu. Wei Hong casually reported the name, and he said with a smile, why don't you ask me why I killed your master? No need to ask more. Shanggang sneered and replied, my master once said that few people can escape unscathed after licking blood on the blade. He has survived all his life. He has retired in his later years but couldn't help but take action. He deserves to die. But as his disciple, it would be unreasonable for me not to avenge him. And you should never kill my junior sister. She is only in her 20s. She is so innocent. You deserve to die. The more Shanggang spoke, the more distorted his face became. Obviously, he was furious. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows and sneered indifferently. Old man Mu took money to help others get rid of disasters. His skills are not as good as others. It's a waste of his death. If his granddaughter thinks she is unlucky or hands in a letter of challenge to avenge him, I won't do anything to her. But she should have planned to kill me in secret, so she deserves to die. Shanggang's anger gradually subsided after hearing this. He knew that Wei Hong was right, and he was not wrong either. But this fight to the death could not stop. 2 people who had done nothing wrong had to fight to the death today. Perhaps this was fate. Listen to me, all of you. Shanggang looked around with cold eyes and growled, no matter who lives or dies in this fight today, all grudges will be written off. If I die here, no one is allowed to seek revenge for me. Remember that. Yes, big escort. Several escorts from Wei Hong Escort Agency clasped their fists in agreement and retreated. As the 2 looked at each other, this fight of unequal realms began. Chapter 158, it's just a trick, just blow it up directly. Outside Hanshin Temple, the snow and wind continued. Wei Hong and Shanggang did not say any more nonsense. Both of them were silently adjusting their own states, in order to meet the opponent with the most peak strength. This is respect for the enemy, and also respect for oneself. Damn, what a terrifying momentum. Will Hanshin Temple be destroyed later? Maybe. When a strong man in the bone refining realm raises his hand, the mountains collapse and the rocks crack. How can this small broken temple withstand it? Quickly retreat a little, so as not to harm the innocent. Everyone retreated a little while whispering. A large blank area was left for the two of them, enough for them to show their full strength. Kill! Shanggang shouted, raised his hand and smashed the giant axe. Then he moved like a monkey jumping, and with a few flashes, he quickly approached with the help of the giant axe. The next moment, the huge axe smashed in front of him like a boulder. Bang! Wei Hong casually raised the two hammers in his hands to block. The giant axe weighing more than 1,000 pounds was bounced away. He held the giant hammer in both hands like a wall, standing it in front of him to resist any attack. Even such a heavy axe hitting it could not make his hands shake at all. Hiss! The whole audience gasped in fear. At first, many people thought he would be killed. After all, such a heavy axe plus the huge force of the bone refining realm would smash ordinary people into pulp, right? Even a house would collapse. But what about Wei Hong? He didn't move at all. His hands were like slapping away some flies. This arm strength is really terrifying. Good. Shanggang was not angry but happy. He took the opportunity to pick up the giant axe that was knocked away, raised his hand and chopped at Wei Hong frantically. Bang! 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 The two of them wielded heavy weapons and collided wildly. In an instant, they exchanged dozens of moves. The violent collision sound set off an amazing airwave. The stone slabs under the feet of the two men shattered, and the airwave swept like a hurricane, scaring everyone to retreat in fear. What a horrible impact! Retreat quickly. Be careful of the gravel, damn. Hiss. My ears, ah. When Wei Hong and Shanggang were fighting, the onlookers were in a mess. Some people covered their eardrums in pain, and some were hit by gravel. For a while, people were bleeding and falling. Only Fan Tai, Zilao San and other blood-refining masters were slightly better off, but their faces were also very ugly. This battle was really terrifying. They didn't even have the courage to get close. A slight impact would easily make them be swept away. They would grit their teeth and accept that Shanggang had this ability, but why could Wei Hong fight him without losing? Everyone is in the blood-refining realm, your strength is too fierce, isn't it? Damn. Zilao Sam trembled and said, this guy only needs one hammer to kill me, and his hammer is definitely not hollow. I can't afford to provoke you, I can't afford to provoke you. Fan Tai also kept muttering to himself. Obviously, Wei Hong's fierce performance stimulated him severely. Ha ha ha, cool. Boom. The fight between the two continued in the open space. Shanggang became more and more excited as he fought, and his great strength also showed a terrifying and wild aura. The whole person attacked crazily like a killing god, and the giant axe occasionally smashed into the ground and made a deep pit. Wei Hong responded calmly. His two-handed giant hammer was as flexible as a butterfly flying through flowers. No matter which angle Shanggang attacked from, he could easily block it. Gradually, the spectators found something wrong. Shanggang had already been sweating profusely and excited. Wei Hong, however, still looked calm, and there was not a single sweat stain on his body. It was as if his fight just now was just teasing a child. There was even a hint of disappointment in his eyes, as if to say that this was all the ability of the bone refining realm. Big escort, something is wrong. An escort shouted anxiously, he is observing your methods, fight quickly and decisively. Huh? Shanggang finally found something wrong. The excitement in his eyes slowly turned into solemnity. After all, who would have thought that he was one level higher than his opponent, and when he tried his best to crush his opponent, the enemy didn't even break a sweat. Isn't this just teasing you? It seems that you are really born with supernatural power. Shanggang's expression was slightly cold, but you thought that you could compete with the bone refining realm by relying on your natural supernatural power, and you made a wrong calculation. Today I will let you see how powerful the bone refining realm is. After saying that, Shanggang pounced again. His posture suddenly changed from fierce to agile. Not only did his figure move left and right like a ghost, but even the giant axe in his hand chopped out after images, and there was even a terrifying dark force hidden under each attack. Even the giant axe attack was only on the surface. In secret, every time Xianggang stepped on the ground with his feet, a fierce and clever dark force would be transmitted from the ground, not only shaking the stone slabs on the open space of Hanshin Temple into powder, but also shaking Wei Hong back again and again. Puff! A mouthful of black blood spurted out. Wei Hong took 3 steps back before he could stabilize his body. His feet had been trampled into pieces by him, and the surroundings were in a mess. Interesting. Wei Hong's mouth curled up. Not only was he not panicked by the defeat just now, but he was aroused at this time. He found that Xiangang's strength was not as good as his. If he wanted to end the battle quickly just now, the opponent would not be able to withstand his 2 hammers. Now it would be interesting to force him to show his strength. The use of dark energy in the bone refining realm is really clever. Wei Hong sneered, shouted and rushed forward like crazy. He was not as clever as the opponent. Then he would just be brutal to the end. This was also the battle strategy Wei Hong had decided early. He was seen madly waving his 2 hammers and attacking fiercely. Every time he stepped, a dark energy would surge out of his feet and blast in all directions. Although he could not control it as finely as Xianggang, the dark energy surged violently in all directions, and blocked Xiangang's sneak attack. At the same time, the power of his 2 hammers increased dramatically, and each hammer carried a huge force of 10,000 pounds. He hit the giant axe again and again, and the huge force alone made Xiangang's hands numb. Although the dark force is good, it must be able to penetrate the opponent's body to hurt people. When Wei Hong swung his 2 hammers, he not only blocked all the attacks, but even the dark force could hardly hurt him at all. On the contrary, under his full strength attack, Xianggang had no choice but to use more dark force on defense. Wei Hong clearly felt that his giant axe had a clever force. Every time the hammer collided with a giant axe, the force would be inexplicably diverted, so that although Xianggang was not as strong as him, he could easily block his attack. Haha, if you can defend once, can you defend 10,000 times? Wei Hong grinned and launched another violent attack. It's just a clever force, just blow it up directly. He doesn't have much but he has plenty of physical strength. Let's see who will fall down first today. Chapter 159, Use force to suppress others and do the opposite. Boom, boom, boom. In front of Hanshin Temple, the fight between Wei Hong and Xianggang became more intense. The 2 figures almost turned into afterimages, sometimes appearing on the left, sometimes on the right, and the giant axe and double hammers collided and roared crazily. At the beginning, Xianggang almost suppressed Wei Hong. But since Wei Hong burst out with all his strength, he gradually fell into a slump. A huge force was transmitted from the giant axe to his hand, and Xianggang was shocked to the point that his palm was numb and his blood was surging. The rhythm of the battle was disrupted several times. If it weren't for his rich combat experience, I'm afraid he would have suffered at this moment. Damn it, damn it. Xianggang couldn't help roaring in his heart. What kind of monster is this dog thing? Why can the peak of the blood refining realm have such a huge force? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Although Xianggang was born in an ordinary family, but he was born with a special physique and had great strength since he was a child. In the past, when fighting with the enemy, he often overwhelmed people with force and easily crushed his opponents. Now he finally understood the despair that his enemies had felt in the past. This kind of opponent was obviously lower in realm than him, and obviously not as good at using dark energy as he was, but he could still suppress him with brute force. This feeling was really frustrating. Xianggang's unwilling roar resounded around. His face turned red, and he gritted his teeth again and again to fight Wei Hong, but he was beaten back every time, and finally spurted out a mouthful of black blood. Big escort leader. Oh no, don't fight him head-on. This boy has amazing brute force, it's better to fight him in a leisurely manner. The escorts reminded anxiously. Xianggang, who was almost overwhelmed by anger, also regained his sanity a little. He dodged and retreated 10 feet away, breathing heavily, and said with a serious face, "Your Excellency is really terrifying. You have such great strength at the peak of the blood refining realm. If you break through to the bone refining realm, I'm afraid that you can beat the late bone refining realm in the early stage, right? No need to flatter me. I was born in the Prince Duan's mansion, and my background is definitely deeper than yours." Wei Hong's words choked everyone. Think about it. How can people from the Prince Duan's mansion be compared with ordinary martial artists? Wei Hong's words wiped out Xianggang's deliberate flattery, and also made everyone's shock gradually turn into a matter of course. It is indeed exaggerated for the peak of the blood refining realm to attack the bone refining realm. However, once this kind of thing happens to the rich and powerful and ordinary people, it becomes extremely normal. Therefore, even if Shuanggang wanted to deliberately make Wei Hong famous and cause trouble, he was defeated by this sentence at this moment. Awesome! Shuanggang sneered, decisively threw the giant axe in his hand aside, and raised his hand to make a starting posture of the thunder palm. He was ready to fight the enemy barehanded. But it was not because of arrogance, but because he wanted to fight. The heavy axe was only suitable for head-on confrontation. Since he was ready to change his strategy, he would naturally abandon it. The thunder palm, which was known for its agility and might, was very suitable. Once he could hit Wei Hong head-on, he was sure to shatter his internal organs with one palm. This fight to the death is not over yet. Shuanggang said coldly, if you think you can beat me with just a little brute force, then you are wrong. High-level martial artists are never reckless men who compete in brute force. Come and die. Swish. Shuanggang approached like a ghost. Without the heavy axe to drag him down, he was like a flexible brown bear. Not only was his speed several times faster, but he was also rapidly approaching Wei Hong in an attempt to fight him in close combat. Hurry up and throw away the double hammers. Fan Tai couldn't help but remind him. Haha. Wei Hong sneered but didn't do it. Under normal circumstances, it is not appropriate to use heavy hammers for close combat. If he was experienced in combat, he would definitely throw away the double hammers at this moment, and then draw out a knife or fight with fists and feet. But Wei Hong did the opposite. Not only did he not throw away the heavy double hammers, but he swung them tightly. Whoosh whoosh. The huge round hammers kept sweeping towards Shuanggang, easily blocking his approach, and the two sides fell into a stalemate. Wei Hong could not hit Shuanggang, and the opponent did not dare to force his approach at the risk of being hit by the hammer. For a while, both of them were in the rhythm of fighting. Oh. Fan Tai said anxiously, Brother Li's combat experience is always a little lacking. At this time, the opponent clearly wants to consume his physical strength. How can he fight with double hammers weighing thousands of pounds? If he delays any longer, he will be exhausted to death. Yes, can't he see Shuanggang's intention? Zhu Liaozhen couldn't help but wonder. Everyone looked at each other, all anxiously watching the battle. But gradually everyone found something wrong. 100 moves, 200 moves, 300 moves. Half a cup of tea, 1 cup of tea, 2 cups of tea. As time went by, Wei Hong not only did not feel tired at all, but became more and more courageous. He was like a tireless killer, constantly chasing and suppressing Shuanggang. Hiss. How is this possible? Doesn't Li get tired? Monster, this guy is definitely a freak. Damn, if this kind of person goes to the battlefield, wouldn't he be a match for thousands of people? Everyone gasped in fear. Shuanggang was also tired and pale. He never thought that he could be dragged down by the enemy holding a double hammer weighing thousands of pounds when he was fighting with his bare hands. Where can he go to reason with this? Hey. Wei Hong suddenly stopped at this time. He smiled and said, is this all you can do? Shang Biao Tao, you should use your strongest killer move. If you keep dragging it on like this, unless you want to turn around and run away, you will be hammered in the head in less than half a cup of tea, and I haven't even used my secret technique yet. You. Shuanggang's face flushed with shame. He had to admit that he lost, and lost completely. Just as Wei Hong said, he hadn't even used his secret technique yet, but he had already forced people into such a situation. If he used his secret technique, would he still be able to survive? So, let's make the final blow. Shuanggang half crouched on the ground and raised his head. His face was ferocious, and his blood began to surge wildly, and his strength began to gather in his limbs. Retreat. Retreat quickly. Everyone retreated in fear. The two were about to unleash their strongest attack now. If they were not careful and affected innocent people, it would definitely be a big deal. Therefore, no one dared to approach within 100 feet. That's right. Wei Hong sneered and decisively activated the blood-burning talent, power storage talent, and blood reversal method. With a superposition of the three states, his blood surged and his body size soared. He suddenly transformed from an 8-foot man into a 12-foot tall muscular giant. This image that looked like a demon scared everyone present. Kill! The two roared each other. The next moment, they collided like a cannonball. Boom! A raging air current swept out from the place where the two people collided, and sand and dust rolled and gravel flew within 100 feet. For a moment, everyone subconsciously covered their eyes with their arms. Some unlucky people were hit by the gravel and fainted on the spot with a groan. Chapter 160 Xianji Pavilion, Tiger List. With one blow, the smoke and dust dissipated. When everyone regained their sight and looked over, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. The platform in front of Hanshin Temple was in a mess, with potholes and rubble everywhere. Half of Shuanggang's body was smashed into the ground, leaving only the upper body holding up the giant hammer to prevent it from falling. Wei Hong stood there in a crushing posture. Obviously, the collision between the two had already produced a result. Wei Hong was unharmed, but he was just gasping for breath. Shuanggang, however, was trembling while spitting out black blood, and he might faint at any time. "You win, kill me." Shuanggang smiled miserably with a pale face. "Don't implicate others, this matter ends here, please." "Okay." Wei Hong nodded and agreed. The giant hammer was raised high again and then fell. "No. Big escort." The escorts roared and shouted in grief and anger. But in the end, they still failed to save his life. Puff. With a sound, blood and flesh splattered, and a deep pit was smashed directly on the ground. Shuanggang's strong body was like a rotten watermelon, splattered into blood mist, and not even a complete corpse was left. Wei Hong looked at the broken meat on the ground, and he couldn't help but feel a little dazed. He shouldn't have killed such a respectable opponent, but he still did it, because going all out is the real respect. Today is a fight to the death, so Shuanggang must not leave alive. This is not only related to the end of the grudge, but also to whether Wei Hong's prestige is successful. Everyone. Wei Hong glanced at several escorts and said, "Please bury Shuang escort head with honor. Today's fight is not what I want. I hope you don't provoke me again." The escorts looked complicated and sad, and finally said nothing more. "Congratulations, Brother Li." "Ho-ha-ho-ha. Great, Master Li." Fan Tai, Ziliozan and others smiled and complimented. Wei Hong nodded and said, "Please support me today. I will treat you to dinner at Fengming Tower on Wharf Street. We won't go home until we are drunk." "Okay, we won't go home until we are drunk." "Thank you, Master Li." Everyone laughed in agreement. Wei Hong turned his eyes to the mess on the ground, and finally walked towards the old monk who was still sweeping the floor in the temple. He seemed to have never noticed the fight here. He was still quietly cleaning the snow and ignored everyone from beginning to end. This kind of person is either a true monk or someone with a big secret. Wei Hong had no intention of making friends with him, but he still walked up to him and clasped his hands together and said, "Please forgive me, Master. Today I am going to settle my grievances with others and have no intention of destroying your temple." "No problem." The old monk said indifferently. "The Buddha said that everything is illusory, like dew and wind, impermanence is permanence, and no self is me." Wei Hong didn't understand the Buddhist language, but he bowed again and left a stack of silver bills as compensation, and then turned and left. Shuanggang had to meet here for the battle. He had to pay compensation for destroying the temple and then dying. "Let's go." Wei Hong and Fan Tai and the group walked down the mountain leisurely. Only a group of escorts from the Wei Hong escort agency were left to collect Shuanggang's body. In less than half a day, the news of the fight between Shuanggang and Wei Hong spread all over the streets. Li Tizhu's identity immediately became notorious, and he became a little famous. Even the well-informed and omniscient Xianji Pavilion included his name. After all, a case of a top-level martial artist in the blood-refining realm successfully defeating a master in the bone-refining realm is not common even in the Zhou dynasty, which is full of talents. It is hard not to have such a reputation. In the inner city of the capital, in the Xianji Pavilion, a large number of nameplates were hung on a large wall, with the words Dragon and Tiger List written on them, and there were crowds of people watching the excitement below. At this time, a servant took down one of the nameplates with a bamboo pole and hung up a new one. The crowd watching the show below was immediately surprised. Luding, the 98th ranked life chaser, was squeezed out of the Tiger List. The new man is called Li Tizhu? Who is he? I've never heard of him. Damn, could Xianji Pavilion have made a mistake? Which expert in the world has such a rustic name? Even the life chaser was squeezed out. Does this guy have any combat achievements? How did he make it into the top 100 of the Tiger List? Everyone was talking about it. At this time, a servant of Xianji Pavilion came out to explain, "Everyone, we just received news that Li Tizhu, The personal guard of Prince Duan's mansion, challenged Shuanggang, the head escort of Wei Hong escort agency, who was in the early stage of bone refining realm, and he won the fight and killed his opponent on the spot. The news has been confirmed and it cannot be wrong. Li Tizhu is 32 years old, at the peak of blood refining realm, and is good at using a pair of heavy hammers. For more detailed information, you can buy our new Dragon and Tiger list booklet to check it out yourself. Oh my, is this true? A peak blood refining realm defeated the bone refining realm? So amazing. Wow, another fierce man suddenly appeared, and he is just a small personal guard of Prince Duan's mansion. What do you mean by small personal guard? Any personal guard of Prince Duan's mansion is at the level of blood refining realm. This man must be one of the best, a fierce man. Everyone was in an uproar. Li Tizhu's name spread all at once. You should know that Xianji Pavilion can claim to include information about warriors in the world, and list the Heaven list, Earth list, and Dragon and Tiger list, with 365 people on each list. Among them, the heavenly ranking corresponds to the Xiantian realm, and the earthly ranking corresponds to the Zhang refining realm. The Dragon and Tiger rankings correspond to the bone refining realm and the blood refining realm respectively. Now Wei Hong can cross the realm with the blood refining realm and kill a battle-hardened bone refining realm in the early stage. Even if you search the whole world, you may not find a few people with this strength. No one dares to say that he is ranked in the top 100 of the Tiger ranking. Brother Yuan, your Prince Duan's mansion has produced a talent. On the second floor of the Xianji Pavilion, several middle-aged men were chatting and drinking. Yuan Xianhua, the third housekeeper of the Prince Duan's mansion, was also on the list. He also saw the farce below. When he saw that someone from his family squeezed into the top 100 of the Tiger ranking, he couldn't help but be a little stunned. Go, buy a new Dragon and Tiger ranking booklet. Yuan Xianhua ordered. Yes. The little follower on the side hurried down to do it. Soon a beautifully made booklet was handed to him. Yuan Xianhua flipped through the booklet for a while, and couldn't help showing a strange look on his face. He murmured, "It's really this kid. He has been recuperating on the farm since he returned from hunting the iron-winged green-scaled python. During this period, he chose to register with the King Chamber of Commerce to make money. He also killed Mu Sui, so he provoked Shuanggang to issue a challenge. This series of deeds is really too high profile. It is not easy for Wei Hong to hide, so he was investigated clearly by the Xianji Pavilion, as if someone was always watching him. Yuan Xianhua didn't care much about this. In his opinion, anyone who walked out of the Prince Duan's mansion, even a small guard, should not be underestimated, and killing an escort leader is nothing strange. But he always felt that this person was a little bit wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Send someone to notify him to come back to the palace to see me tomorrow. Yuan Xianhua ordered again. Yes. The little follower nodded obediently. Chapter 161 The Barking Dog Never Bites, Identity in Doubt. The next day, Wei Hong, who was urgently summoned back to the palace, looked a little confused and stunned. He obviously didn't expect that he had just fought with Shuanggang, but why he was inexplicably on the Dragon and Tiger list of the Xianji Pavilion and attracted the attention of the palace. Now he was in a state of confusion. If he was really Li Tizhu, it would be fine. Being noticed by the high-level officials of the palace meant that he had made a name for himself. But he was not the real Li Tizhu. He still understood the principle that the more attention he attracted, the easier it would be to be exposed. What should he do now? Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. Wei Hong secretly comforted himself and stepped into the palace calmly. Along the way, the palace guards who were familiar with him on weekdays all cast surprised eyes on him. Obviously, they had already known about his glorious deeds, and many of them were full of disbelief. Isn't this kid in the late blood refining realm? When did he reach the peak of the blood refining realm? Can he even kill a bone refining realm? Damn, we grew up together, how come I didn't know he had this ability? Grown up together, so what? Li Tizhu is a taciturn man who doesn't like to talk. How do you know he's not hiding something? That's right, a biting dog doesn't like to bark. This kid is really powerful. The guards talked a lot, but no one doubted his identity. Wei Hong walked a few steps and suddenly realized that he didn't know where Yuan Xianhua lived, so he could only raise his hand to stop a servant and asked, "Is the third housekeeper in the mansion?" "In the east garden." The servant replied. "Led the way." Wei Hong waved his hand and ordered, and the servant quickly agreed. Soon he was taken to the East Garden and stood in front of Yuan Xianhua, who was checking the accounts in the warehouse. The powerful refining organ realm expert just took a glance and made him tense up. "Hello, third housekeeper, you are looking for me." Wei Hong greeted politely, not daring to reveal the slightest flaw. This is the inner house of Prince Duan's mansion, and there are countless eyes staring at him. Once his identity as Li Tizhu is exposed, even if his strength increases tenfold, he will never be able to leave here alive, so he has to be cautious. Li Tizhu, right. Yuan Xianhua washed his hands in the basin held by the servant beside him, and wiped them carelessly with a handkerchief. "You had an appointment with Shuanggang at Hanshan Temple yesterday." "Yes." Wei Hong pretended to be hesitant and said, "I have been unable to break through to the bone refining realm as I grow older. I was anxious and found a chamber of commerce to rely on to earn some cultivation resources. Who would have thought that I would cause a lot of trouble? In order to avoid damaging the reputation of the palace, I can only bite the bullet and fight. I hope the general manager Yuan will forgive me." Yuan Xianhua stared at him with cold eyes, and without saying a word, he brought great pressure to people. Although Wei Hong was not afraid of him, he deliberately pretended to be nervous, cowardly, and uneasy in order to avoid being exposed. The next moment, Yuan Xianhua suddenly grabbed him. Wei Hong's eyes widened and he was ready to dodge. But he finally forced himself to hold back and let the other party's iron-like palm grab his arm. Then Yuan Xianhua took the opportunity to pinch his throat bone, as if he wanted to pinch him to death. Wei Hong suppressed the thought of resistance with great willpower. He still made a look of surprise and panic. Everything happened in a flash. In the end, Yuan Xianhua's palm did not pinch his throat bone, but pinched his chin to check if there was any sign of disguise, and then touched his whole body bones to check. Hiss. Wei Hong secretly took a breath of cold air. Did the other party doubt his identity? But Wei Hong was relieved. It didn't matter if he was suspected. The most feared thing was to be killed without saying a word. That would be an unjust death. Ordinary people disguise themselves by either wearing a disguise mask or changing the shape of bones and flesh. As long as the technique is not good, there will always be flaws at some key points. But Wei Hong had already practiced 1,000 changes to perfection. Not only can he perfectly imitate a person's body, but he can also imitate his demeanor and temperament. Even the top criminal hunters in the Dali Temple find it difficult to break his disguise. So when he saw that Yuan Xianhua was not going to kill him but was just checking his identity, he calmed down. "General Manager Yuan, what are you doing?" Wei Hong pretended to be confused. Yuan Xianhua sneered and pulled back his hand, asking, "You used to be ordinary in the mansion, why did you make such a big fuss during this period of recuperation? Aren't you in the late stage of the blood refining realm? Isn't it normal for a martial artist to hide some tricks?" Wei Hong smiled innocently. No matter how weak the people in our Duanwang mansion are, they are not comparable to ordinary fish when they leave the mansion. I just happen to be there. If other people take action, they may be more powerful than me. That's right. Yuan Xianhua nodded secretly. This explanation is reasonable and reasonable. After all, the people in the Duanwang mansion are proud. What's the big deal about killing a commoner escort? But when did you practice the double hammers? Yuan Xianhua continued to ask. I've practiced it a long time ago. Wei Hong said frankly, we, the guards of the palace, know all kinds of martial arts. I heard that Shuanggang is good at using a giant axe, and I have brute force, so I just killed him head on. At that time, I tried my best and used the secret technique of risking my life. I suffered a lot of backlash before I killed him. Outsiders who don't understand these things think I'm so powerful. Don't believe the rumors. Yuan Xianhua smiled when he heard it. The frost in his eyes gradually dissipated. He took the tea brought by the servant next to him and took a sip, and said with satisfaction, not bad, no matter what, you kid has shown the prestige of my Duanwang mansion, you deserve a reward. Thank you, Lord Steward. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief silently. It seems that he has gotten away with it. The other party only noticed that he was slightly different from the previous Li Tizhu, but he couldn't find any evidence. After Wei Hong gave a perfect explanation, Yuan Xianhua obviously stopped worrying about it. A crisis ended. Wei Hong's fake identity was more stable. You are about to reach the limit of the blood refining realm, so you can try to refine your bones. Yuan Xianhua thought for a moment and said, now I will give you 3 rewards, and you are eligible to choose one. First, Go to the warehouse to collect 3 bottles of bone refining pills. This thing can accelerate your breakthrough to the bone refining realm, and there is almost no possibility of failure in the breakthrough. Second, you are allowed to be promoted to the captain position and advance and lead a team. Third, you are allowed to go to the second floor of the Sutra Library to exchange for martial arts once. Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up. He didn't like the bone refining pills. He had already prepared to use the ambergris he seized last time to break through. He was not interested in promotions, but going to the second floor of the Sutra Library was quite attractive to him. Yuan Xianhu's reward seemed quite generous. Could it be that he wanted to win him over? Who cares? It would be stupid not to take the benefits. Wei Hong immediately said, "Thank you, butler. I want to go to the Sutra Library." Chapter 162, Fame is troublesome, pretend to be injured to avoid disaster. Facing Wei Hong's choice, Yuan Xianhu couldn't help but frown again, revealing a trace of doubt. "You don't want the bone refining pill? You don't want to get promoted? As far as I know, you have already been to the second floor of the Sutra Library once, so you should not be short of exercises, right? Why do you still make such a choice?" Reply to the chief steward. Wei Hong had already thought of the wording, and answered directly and frankly, "I think I have a deep foundation after years of accumulation, and I am still confident that I can break through the bone refining realm, so I don't need the bone refining pill. As for promotion, I don't have much of a future, and I don't have much interest in managing other brothers. Now I'm staying at the water and land docks, and I don't want to leave for the time being. Although I have already chosen the cultivation method, I haven't yet dabbled in the bone refining realm martial arts. After the breakthrough, it is inevitable that I will not be able to exert my strength, so I chose to go to the Sutra Library." Yuan Xianhu nodded in agreement when he heard it. The admiration in his eyes deepened a bit, and it was obvious that he recognized Wei Hong, who didn't like power and had a smart mind. "In that case, I will reward you with 1 entry to the second floor of the Sutra Library," Yuan Xianhu said, "but you have to save this reward first, and I will arrange it when you really break through to the bone refining realm. I heard that once the guards in the palace break through to the bone refining realm, they will be qualified to enter the second floor of the Sutra Library once. In this way, can't I exchange for 2 martial arts?" Wei Hong asked tentatively. "Yes." Yuan Xianhu took a sip of tea and said slowly, "But in the past 2 years, there are a total of 7 guards in the palace who have broken through to the bone refining realm. There are only 5 vacancies for the captain of the guard. If you make a choice, you will lose the opportunity to be promoted to captain. Are you willing?" "I am willing, thank you, butler." Wei Hong agreed without hesitation. "Well," Yuan Xianhu pondered for a moment and said, "you should go back and pretend to be sick for a few months recently, so as not to offend the noble." Pretend to be sick. Wei Hong was slightly stunned. What the hell is this? Why do I have to pretend to be sick in order not to offend the noble? Yuan Xianhu glanced at him and said unhappily, "Now that the Xianji Pavilion has ranked you as the 98th on the tiger list, I don't know how many people want to become famous by stepping on your corpse. Some of the powerful children in the capital have also noticed you, and even the 3rd princess has asked about your name. If you don't want to be called over by some powerful children every day to be a target, just stay honest and recuperate. In a few months, when you break through to the bone refining realm, you will be automatically removed from the tiger list. Do you understand?" Wei Hong couldn't help but frown with a headache. He did have the idea of killing Shanggang to become famous and establish his prestige. After all, Li Tizhu's identity was fake. If he really caused any trouble, he could just withdraw and retreat. If he successfully established his prestige, he could also get some benefits. But who would have thought that being too high profile would lead to being on the tiger list of the Xianji Pavilion and attracting the attention of the powerful children? If he was really called to be a live target every now and then, the scene would make people feel sick just thinking about it. After all, which of the dignitaries who can associate with a Prince Duan's mansion is easy to mess with? Fighting with them can only lose, not win. Isn't this just getting beaten? "Thank you for your advice, butler. I understand." Wei Hong immediately decided to pretend to be sick after returning and stay at the water and land dock to practice martial arts. He ignored any chivalrous knights who wanted to step on him to become famous, and any dignitaries who wanted to practice with him. Anyway, with the brand of the Prince Duan's mansion as a cover, ordinary people dare not provoke him casually. Half a day later, Wei Hong, who had just returned to the small courtyard of the Water and Land Dock, once again felt the necessity of Yuan Xianhu's reminder, because a lot of visiting cards, banquet invitations, and letters of challenge had arrived one after another. There were wealthy businessmen who wanted to invite them to banquets and win them over. There were also younger generations in the martial arts world who wanted to challenge and become famous. In short, all kinds of troubles emerged in an endless stream, causing a lot of headaches. Damn, we can't stay at the Water and Land Wharf anymore. Wei Hong called Ergaozi and ordered, "Go and inform Boss Fan and Zilao San, and tell them that I am seriously injured and have returned to Shendu for recuperation. I will not come here for the time being. Anyone who has a visiting card, a letter of challenge, or a visit, will be rejected on the pretext that I am recovering from my injuries." Yes. Ergaozi nodded in agreement. Wei Hong then turned around and got on the scale-armored horse again. He turned around and returned to Shendu without hesitation, without any nostalgia for the gentle land of the two courtesans in the wharf courtyard. In his opinion, the Water and Land Wharf is now the center of the vortex. He must hide for at least 1 or 2 months and cannot go there, otherwise it will be easy to involve other things. Anyway, Li Tizhu's identity is just a fake. As long as he disappears for a while under the pretext of recuperating or breaking through, no one can find him. In addition, he just killed Shuanggang and established his prestige. No matter how blind Fan Tai and Zilao San are, they will not offend him. So nominally, it is not a problem for him to go to the Water and Land Wharf for this dispatched supervisor job. They will be happier if he doesn't go. At night, Wei Hong rarely stayed in Wei's house in Xianbao Lane. He had a delicious hot pot with his family. The steaming hot pot base was paired with a plate of vegetables and beef and mutton. It was so fragrant that it made people's mouths water. Wei Hong was also very happy to eat. After solving the danger of Shuanggang and getting a promise from Yuan Xianhu to exchange martial arts twice on the second floor of the Sutra Pavilion, he was in a very good mood and had a very good appetite. "Grandpa, eat more. Yuan eats this, mutton is nourishing. Don't just pick up dishes for us, you eat too." Everyone ate around the stove, and the atmosphere was warm. Grandma Wang, who had just recovered from a serious illness, couldn't help but sigh. This winter is no worse than last year. It's another cold day. I don't know how many people will freeze to death. Wei Hong silently stopped the chopsticks in his hand. Suddenly, he thought of something. Before Lei Peng went on a mission, he reminded him that the old emperor would not live long. There might be a big change in the gods this winter, so he asked him to be careful and prepare. But he was busy practicing martial arts recently and almost forgot about it. Now that he remembered this matter through Grandma Wang's words, he couldn't help but frown secretly. "Brother Hong, what are you thinking about?" Grandma Wang smiled and said, "I just said it casually. If you don't want to listen, let's not talk about this." "It's okay, Grandma Wang, you mean well." Wei Hong sighed and said, "At least tens of thousands of people will freeze to death in the capital of God every winter. The end of the year is the most difficult time of the year. Let's buy more food and stockpile it recently, so as not to be unprepared for anything." "What can happen?" Old Wei said puzzledly. "Such a big capital of God, it won't let people starve, right?" "Grandpa, you don't understand." Wei Hong said in a deep voice, "It's better to stockpile some food. Qiuju, when you have time, buy more food, rice, flour, meat, and medicinal materials. Prepare enough for dozens of people to eat for several months, and have them sent to Renai Elaine in batches to hide them. Things won't go bad in the winter. Okay." Qiuju didn't ask anything more, and nodded and agreed. Wei Hong would never harm anyone, she just needed to do as he said. "Please give me a monthly ticket, please reward me, please read more." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Blood Refining reaches its limit, Bone Refining begins. December 1st. Wei Hong, who was recuperating at home, was blessed with a spiritual blessing. The small bottleneck that had been holding him back disappeared in an instant. The last bit of stagnation in the blood refining realm completely disappeared, and his ki and blood naturally became smooth and free. So far, he has reached the limit of the blood refining realm. There is no room for improvement. At the same time, He has reached the point where he can try to break through the bone refining realm. Wei Hong was not surprised at all, and even felt that it was very normal. His foundation was so deep that it was jaw-dropping. How could a small bottleneck hinder him? Even if he hadn't practiced for a few days. With his ki and blood running automatically, the last floor was completely made up. Now his whole body is transparent and smooth, and his dark energy moves at will. He can attack from any direction of his body in an instant, and his strength has made great progress. Wei Hong only realized at this time that brute force is of little use to increase his strength at this level, and it was pure luck that he could kill Shuanggang. If he encounters an enemy above the middle stage of the bone refining realm, he will really be difficult to deal with. The heart moves as it pleases. The strength follows the heart. Win with ingenuity. In the training room, Wei Hong practiced Tai Chi slowly. He found that most of the martial arts in this world were tough and fierce, and there were almost no martial arts known for being soft. On the contrary, the ordinary Tai Chi could help him feel the soft strength and ingenuity. He practiced it as he pleased. Although the movements may not be standard and the routines are not quite the same. But the artistic conception is still very good and he benefited a lot. After a long time, Wei Hong slowly finished the exercise and exhaled a breath of exhaust gas. Then he looked at a jade box placed on the table in the corner of the training room. It contained the ambergris that he had dug up from the snake's nest when he sneaked into the snake's nest last time when he hunted the iron-winged green-scaled python. It is recorded in the Principles of Medicinal Herbs that there is a strange flower in the world called ambergris. Its flowers can cure all poisons in the world, its branches and leaves can strengthen the tendons and bones, and its roots can cleanse the essence and marrow. It is a rare magical medicine in the world. Wei Hong's medical skills are now extraordinary, and no contemporary divine doctor is better than him. He knows exactly how to deal with the ambergris. The flowers are useless to him. Wei Hong has vitality to protect his body and is not afraid of toxins. However, he can keep them for emergency use. If a relative around him is inexplicably poisoned, he can also cure it, but he has to tend it carefully. In addition, the branches, leaves and roots are of great use to him. They can not only cleanse the essence and marrow to remove impurities, enhance people's talents, remove hidden injuries, but also strengthen the tendons and bones. Aren't they more suitable for breakthroughs than any bone-strengthening pills? Let's start. Wei Hong murmured. Decisively picked the ambergris flowers carefully and put them away. Then he took out a casserole for boiling medicine, lit it with charcoal, added spring water and started to boil, and threw more than 10 kinds of medicine into the pot. After a boil, they were gradually boiled into a large pot of black, colloid-filled, and viscous medicine. Wei Hong tasted it carefully, and a sweetness suddenly bloomed on the tip of his tongue. Then a warm energy flowed through his body, and even his pores began to sweat. What a strong medicine! Wei Hong secretly smacked his lips, but still took a wooden spoon and swallowed it in big mouthfuls. Most people might be frightened by the strength of this pot of medicine and dare not swallow it casually, for fear of causing any damage to their bodies. But Wei Hong didn't care. He had vitality to protect his body and was not afraid of injuries. He swallowed a large pot of medicine into his stomach in a few seconds. Goo goo goo. There were gurgling sounds from his stomach. His whole body was red as if he had swallowed magma, his skin began to burn, his pores began to sweat, and various impurities were discharged from all parts of his body. He was so scared that he quickly drank several large bowls of water, for fear that he would faint due to sweating. Then, his bones began to ache. Wei Hong felt as if he had been trampled by an elephant millions of times, and as if ants were biting his flesh, blood, and bones. He felt numb and painful, and almost wanted to vomit blood. However, he resisted the urge to faint. He sat cross-legged on the ground and practiced the dead bones magic art. This magic bone refining technique emphasizes the integration of withering and flourishing, and strengthens the bones by constantly damaging the bones and then nourishing them. The most important method is dead bones. Transform blood into essence, transform essence into marrow. Wei Hong silently recited the formula in his heart and began to control the circulation of ki and blood. Every time the dark energy traveled along the route of the dead bones magic art in his body meridians, his originally surging ki and blood would wither a little, and his face would turn pale. After a while, even the bones deep in his flesh and blood were withering. His originally strong body seemed to be withered, and the whole person became inexplicably thin, like a mummy, which was terrifying. However, after the transformation, The qi and blood in his body were integrated into his bone marrow, making his seemingly broken body actually hide a huge amount of energy. Huh? Huh? Wei Hong took a deep breath and exhaled. The vitality energy that penetrated into his bone marrow slowly flowed to all parts of his body. His bones and flesh began to fill up, and the surging qi and blood fluctuations gradually increased. In the process of going back and forth, his bones and flesh were inexplicably strengthened, but the loss of qi and blood was not small, which made him weak for a long time before he recovered. It happened that the medicinal power of the ambergris began to spread throughout his body. It continuously replenished his qi and blood, making his exercise efficiency doubled. Add some. Wei Hong gritted his teeth and added 1,000 points of vitality to his body. The surging warm energy began to fill his body, and soon he was refreshed and full of qi and blood, and he began to practice the withered bone magic for the second and third time. Ordinary magic sect warriors practiced the withered bone magic, and they needed to prepare a large amount of pills to replenish qi and blood and nourish bones, and they could only practice once every few days. However, Wei Hong relied on the medicinal effect of ambergris and the supplement of vitality energy, and did not care about the deficiency of blood and qi in his body. He practiced hard again and again. With his continuous efforts, his whole body bones were strengthened at a rate 10 times and 100 times higher than that of ordinary people. In the 5 small realms from the initial stage to the peak of the bone refining realm, the bones will undergo different degrees of transformation. The initial stage is called stone bones. At this time, the bones must be as hard as stone. It is considered successful to hit the boulder with a fist without any injury. The middle stage is copper bones, and the late stage is iron bones. The perfection of the bone refining realm is called silver bones, but it is not silver in white silver, but silver in mithril. The martial artists in this realm have already reached the point where even their bones are comparable to mithril. When the martial artist reaches the peak of the bone refining realm, the bones of the whole body will transform into gold bones, which is as hard as black gold. It is said that there are martial artists whose skeletons are still as solid as iron 100 years after their death. It is really terrifying. Now, Wei Hong wants to break through to the stone bone realm tonight. Chapter 164 Breakthrough in Bone Refining, Changes in the Golden Finger. Once, twice, 3 times. Wei Hong seemed to have forgotten everything. He practiced the withered bone magic over and over again, allowing his body to switch back and forth between withering and filling, and letting his bones suffer repeated grinding and growth. For ordinary martial artists, it may take 10 days or half a month to get used to the numbness and severe pain in their bones for the first time, and 1 or 2 months to have the opportunity to break through to the stone bone realm. Even if you swallow the bone forging pills for free, it will take 7 or 8 days to break through. But Wei Hong is different. With the support of ambergris and vitality, more than an hour is equivalent to 1 or 2 months of practice for others, and the bones of his whole body are constantly undergoing transformation. Waves of severe pain began to intensify. The numbness are also getting stronger. Crackle. Wei Hong twisted his body unconsciously, and his bones made a crackling sound, like a snake stretching its body. Suddenly, a feeling of blessing came to his heart. The severe pain and numbness in his body receded like a tide. Instead, there was an explosive sense of power all over his body. Bite. Congratulations to the master for breaking through to the bone refining realm. He is currently at 1/100 of the early stage of the bone refining realm. Host, Wei Hong. Age: 18/112 life points. 57,412 HP. 100% realm, early stage of the bone refining realm. 1/100 skills, withered bone magic skills entry level, 3/1000, fragments of the heart purifying mantra limit, talent, calm mind, the rest are omitted. Martial arts, powerful Vajra legs limit, talent, charge, blood reversal technique limit, talent, blood explosion, thunder lion roar skill limit, talent, thunder sound body tempering, the rest are omitted. Magical powers, none skills, herb pharmacy limit, talent, Shannon tasting hundreds of herbs, fragments of the purple sun concentrating spirit talisman limit, talent, concentrating spirit, bird taming limit, talent, bird language, green bag medical classics limit, talent, doctor's benevolence, Ho's hizzy forging technique limit, talent, striving for excellence, the rest are omitted. Huh? Wei Hong was extremely surprised. Why did the attribute board change slightly? In the past, the health value had a specific value, but now it has become a percentage? Could it be that as my strength increases, the gold finger has also changed a little? Wei Hong tried to add points to the health value out of curiosity, but found that he could not add points. But when he activated the withered bone magic again, when the flesh, blood and bones of the whole body began to shrink, the health value also began to slowly drop, and it suddenly changed from 100% to 97.3%. At this time, the point adding function can be reactivated. Wei Hong smashed down a few hundred points of vitality, and the health value immediately returned to 100%. Good guy, this is to restore blood. Wei Hong cursed inwardly in frustration. After breaking through to the bone refining realm, he could no longer directly add points to improve his strength. He could only use vitality to repair injuries. It seems that the repair function has also been greatly improved. It seems that as his strength increases, the gold finger will also change. But no matter what, it is always good to be able to heal injuries. At least now, as long as Wei Hong is not short of vitality, he can be fearless of any injuries and poisons, even if he eats poisonous food. If his health value drops, he can add some blood at any time. It is difficult for him to die. In addition, after the breakthrough, Wei Hong found that his arm strength has increased again. Now he has at least 18,000 jin of arm strength, which is more than 3 times that of ordinary early-stage martial artists in the bone refining realm. Moreover, his skin membrane defense has risen to a higher level. Even if a magic weapon is cut on his body, it is not easy to break the defense. As for the dark power, it has also increased greatly. Under the mobilization of his blood and ki, the dark power is like a surging river. He can shock the enemy to death with the raise of his hand, and the dark power is no longer just strong and fierce, and gradually has a hint of softness and cleverness. At this time, Wei Hong is more certain that brute force in the bone refining realm is not very useful. If you really meet a master who plays clever power to perfection, even if the opponent's brute force is not as good as yours, you can play him around with clever power. Don't be proud. Wei Hong secretly warned himself. Don't get cocky just because you killed Shongang. Now that he has entered a new realm, he is starting over again. His foundation is almost incomparable to that of a truly powerful bone refining realm warrior, so he must not be proud and complacent. Wei Hong has not forgotten that except for the withered bone magic skill, all his other martial arts are still blood refining realm martial arts. He doesn't even have a bone refining realm martial art to show off, so what qualifications does he have to be proud and complacent? Now I should be able to fight most of the early bone refining realm warriors, but once I face the middle bone refining realm warriors, I will definitely be at a disadvantage due to lack of martial arts and experience. I must go to the Wangfu Sutra Pavilion as soon as possible. Fortunately, I can get 2 martial arts for free this time. Then I will look for other ways to see if I can get more martial arts. This should improve my combat power. As for weapons, Wei Hong pondered again. He was hesitating whether to change his weapons. After all, weapons are also a key factor affecting combat power, but after thinking about it carefully, he found that there was really no need to change. He was comfortable with a broken heart knife, and it was good for assassinations and street fighting. Although the black iron plum blossom needle is not very useful now, there is no need to replace it. The weight of the broken army collapsing mountain hammer is enough. Even in the bone refining realm, few people will use such a heavy weapon, so it is definitely enough for a head-on collision. As for the fine steel frame bow, it is necessary to change it. A bow weighing several hundred kilograms is still a bit worse. If you can find a bow weighing several thousand kilograms, it will definitely have a strong deterrent power. However, this kind of precious bow requires some special beast tendons and professional craftsmen to refine it. Ordinary people can't afford it. It's better to take the time to develop more toxins that are also effective for the bone refining realm. If you get into trouble one day, poison can still help a lot. Wei Hong thought about it and decided to take time to go to the mountains as soon as possible. With his increasingly sophisticated poison refining skills, it is not difficult to create a poison that can threaten the strong in the bone refining realm. Just try a few more times. Wei Hong clearly knows that the real threat of a warrior is never brute force, but the accumulation of various backgrounds. Even if he is an ordinary person with no power to tie a chicken, as long as he is filled with deadly poison, a bunch of bone refining masters will be unlucky if they chase him. The more of this kind of thing is naturally prepared, the better. After the breakthrough, Wei Hong did not feel too proud. He patiently sorted out and analyzed his pros and cons, and constantly planned his future development. He probably had an idea in his mind. It was late at night. When Wei Hong came to the well to wash up and was about to rest, he heard the sound of horse hooves and the noisy sound of soldiers in armor mobilizing on the street. It seemed that there were quite a few people. This made his face change, and he couldn't help but think of Lei Peng's reminder. Is it really going to happen? Wei Hong took a breath of cold air. Chapter 165, Mutiny. The whole city is under martial law. Late at night, a large-scale military mobilization suddenly occurred in the capital. Not only did Wei Hong hear it clearly, but even the people from all over the country were awakened one after another. After waking up, countless people did not dare to light the lights and looked out the window along the moonlight. They saw densely packed soldiers gathering and mobilizing. Countless cavalrymen galloped on the streets. An invisible aura of killing frightened the people of the whole city. Mutiny. Everyone had only one thought in their mind. From the powerful and wealthy to the common people, no one dared to make a sound, for fear that the fire would burn on their heads. The whole city was in panic and could not sleep all night. However, the expected shouting and killing did not appear. There were indeed troops mobilized to gather in the imperial city at night, and even the whole city urgently implemented a curfew, but no one fought, and there was only a terrifying silence. All night, Wei Hong kept his eyes wide open and quietly observed the situation in the dark. But nothing happened until the first ray of morning light came from the horizon, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Hong, are you okay? Old Wei, Qi Uju, Grandma Wang, and Yuan Nian were all anxiously waiting for the situation. They were also awakened in the middle of the night and stayed awake all night like the people in the city. The most feared thing about living in a city is mutiny and massacre. Once such a butcher's knife is implicated in oneself, the end is no joke. After all, facing the armored army, ordinary people have almost no chance to resist and can only become lambs to be slaughtered. Don't worry. Wei Hong took a deep breath and comforted. Something big must have happened last night to mobilize troops to the direction of the imperial city, but they did not break out in a battle, but an emergency curfew. It should not implicate ordinary people for the time being. In addition, don't go out for the time being today. There are soldiers guarding the streets now. Everyone nodded hurriedly. At this time, anyone who is not a fool knows that they can't run around. Who dares to go out on the street at will? Even if there is no food at home, you have to stay hungry at home. Fortunately, Brother Wei, you asked us to store food some time ago. Ju whispered, if something really happens, we can stay at home for a few months, but what should we do if there is a rebellion and the city is searched? No. Wei Hong shook his head and said, Shendu is the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty. At most, there will be a mutiny to seize power, but there will never be a massacre. If it is in other prefectures or small cities, someone may dare to mess around, but the capital is still safe. Everyone nodded in agreement. In the past 800 years of the Great Zhou dynasty, countless cities have been massacred, but no one dared to massacre in the capital. Even if the rebel king's army was approaching, no madman would dare to mess around in the capital, which would be infamous for thousands of years. Therefore, it should be much safer to stay at home honestly. However, Wei Hong thought about it and said, I want to go out and find out the situation in case of emergency. If the situation is out of control, we may have to move to other places. You want to go out now? Old Wei exclaimed, No, Brother Hong, the streets are full of soldiers now, and swords don't have eyes. It's okay, I have the token of the Ministry of Justice. Wei Hong smiled indifferently. He said he wanted to go out to find out the situation, which was naturally after careful consideration. He didn't want to face an unknown storm in a muddle. It was always good to try to grasp more information. In addition, he has now successfully broken through. Even if he is surrounded by a large army, he is sure to fight his way out, so it's okay to go out. Now there are two identities that allow him to walk on the street with swagger. One is the executioner of the Ministry of Justice, and the other is the personal guard of Prince Duan's mansion. They all have legitimate reasons to go out on the street, and even if they are checked, there is a high probability that they can get away with it and easily avoid the identity of the street ban. However, the personal guard of Prince Duan's mansion is too sensitive after all. If the mutiny involves Prince Duan's mansion, wouldn't it be a trap to go out on the street by yourself? Wei Hong thought about it and decided to go out as the executioner of the Ministry of Justice. This identity is backed by the Ministry of Justice and is not tainted by any power, nor is it too sensitive, so it is suitable for him to go out. Close the door and don't go out randomly. I'm going out for a while. Wei Hong took the token issued by the Ministry of Justice and went out directly. Every household in Xianbao Lane was looking around, and they couldn't help but take a breath of cold air when they saw him go out. Many warm-hearted neighbors whispered to persuade him, "Wei the butcher, don't go out, the streets are full of soldiers and bandits." "It doesn't matter, I'm just going out for a walk," Wei Hong answered casually. "That's right, Wei the butcher is a person of status, we don't have to worry about it. Yes, if there is any situation, Wei the butcher must inform us when he comes back." The neighbors talked in a rush. Wei Hong chuckled and perfunctorily walked onto the street. The streets that were usually crowded with people were now empty, and the shops on both sides were all closed. Occasionally, someone looked down from the second-floor windows, but they were hiding. Only teams of soldiers were standing guard in the streets and alleys, tightly controlling every area, as if ready to go to war at any time. "Who is it?" As soon as Wei Hong walked onto the street, he was immediately discovered by the patrolling soldiers. 7 or 8 cold eyes swept over him, bringing a lot of pressure to him. "Military." Wei Hong bowed his hands and said, "I am a minor official in the Ministry of Justice. I have to go on duty today. I wonder if you can make some concessions? Otherwise, it will be difficult to explain to my superiors." After saying that, he showed the token of the Ministry of Justice. As expected, the other party waved his hands and said, "Let's go." "Thank you, military." Wei Hong clasped his fists and left quickly, and at the same time, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. It seems that the situation has not developed to a very bad situation. The blockade of the streets now is just a precaution. He can still walk outside as a member of the Ministry of Justice. Along the way, he saw many vehicles of dignitaries traveling. It seems that the so-called street ban is only for ordinary people, and anyone with a little status is not prohibited from walking. The authorities announced the street ban just to control the situation. Wei Hong would naturally not really go to the Ministry of Justice. He went straight to Deng Haisheng's courtyard. He has been learning beheading from this cheap master for more than half a year. They often make appointments to drink and listen to music together. The relationship is very good. I should be able to get some information from him. Although Deng Haisheng is just a small executioner in the Ministry of Justice, he is a low-class person on the surface. But his family has worked in the Ministry of Justice for 3 generations, and he is very familiar with many small officials. Snakes have snake ways and rats have rat ways. He must be more informed than ordinary people. Dong dong dong. Wei Hong knocked on the door of the courtyard for a while. Deng Haisheng frowned and opened the gate. He was not surprised at his arrival. He just raised his eyebrows and said, "You are quite brave. You dare to run around on the street at this time. You came here with the token of the Ministry of Justice." Wei Hong asked straight to the point, "Master Deng, what's the situation now? Come in and talk." Deng Haisheng slightly turned his body to motion him to go in. Chapter 166, The Fight for Succession. The situation is turbulent. The small courtyard was as messy as ever. A pot of boiling water was bubbling in the stove. On the stone table was a bowl of unfinished vegetarian noodles. Deng Haisheng smiled awkwardly, poured a cup of hot tea for Wei Hong, and took a roasted sweet potato from the stove for him. "You haven't had breakfast yet? Try it." "Okay." Wei Hong glanced at him and probably saw his embarrassment. Deng Haisheng made a lot of money by beheading people. It can be said that one person's food feeds the whole family. Logically, he shouldn't live such a hard life. But he doesn't like gambling but likes prostitution. Most of the money he earns every month goes into brothels. He is definitely a person who suffers for his stomach but not for his brother. "That's all I have, take it first." Wei Hong took out a few silver notes and threw them to him while eating roasted sweet potatoes. "It may be difficult to buy food these days, I will send you some later." No, what are you doing?" Deng Haisheng said dissatisfiedly. "No matter how poor I am, I don't need your help. It's just a little loose silver, take it." Wei Hong said indifferently, "I can make a lot of money from slaughtering pigs every month, a few hundred taels is not a problem." "So much?" Deng Haisheng exclaimed. "Haha." Wei Hong shook his head and laughed dumbly without saying anything more. How could he care about a few hundred taels? Now the profit from the water and land dock alone from Fantai and Zilao-san every month is estimated to be 2 or 3,000 taels, and he also has the income from selling the powerful diamond pills. If he tells others, it will scare people to death. Let's not talk about that. Wei Hong got straight to the point and said, "What happened last night? Did the old emperor really pass away?" "Huh? You are well informed, kid." Deng Haisheng was amazed and said in a low voice, "I heard that the old emperor is not dead yet and is still hanging on to his last breath." Before he fell into coma, he specifically ordered the 6th prince to enter the palace and mobilized the patrol battalion to enforce the street ban, which caused such a big commotion. 6th prince. Wei Hong frowned. It is said that the old emperor has many children, but only the crown prince and the 6th prince are capable. The two have been fighting openly and secretly for many years. Could it be that the result is about to come? The crown prince suffered a loss when General Meng was assassinated last time, and Lin Wusheng was involved and lost his life. Now think about the struggle for imperial power. If one or two are affected, I don't know how many people will die. The prince has been deeply rooted in the court over the years, and he is also quite involved with the aristocratic families. Deng Haisheng sneered and said, "Although the old emperor has tried his best to support the 6th prince, as long as he dies, it is still unknown who will sit on the throne. Let's wait and see. This turmoil will still be a mess. Trouble." Wei Hong frowned. The power struggle should have nothing to do with ordinary people. At this time, the most worried are often the powerful and wealthy families. Each of them is scrambling to stand in line, fearing that they will be killed if they stand in the wrong line. Ordinary people seem to be a little far away from such things. But in fact, this is not the case. Once the prince and the 6th prince go to war, not to mention that the entire capital will be destroyed, there will definitely be people who take advantage of the chaos to loot. The principle of chivalrous breaking the ban with martial arts has never changed. Most martial artists have violent genes in their bodies. They dare not run wild under the jurisdiction of the court laws on weekdays. Once chaos breaks out, they dare to burn, kill, rob and do anything. The rich families have guards guarding them and no one dares to move. In the end, isn't it the small families who suffer? In addition, Deng Haisheng reminded, "Your huge meat shop is somewhat involved with the Tiger Head Gang." During the mutiny, the gangs were also the forces that the major forces wooed. Once a fight breaks out, there is no guarantee that you will not be used as cannon fodder. You should close the shop and rest for a few days. Don't make money but not spend it. Okay. Wei Hong nodded and agreed. In fact, he would have done so even if Deng Haisheng didn't remind him. After all, the Tiger Head Gang is a subordinate gang of the Prince Duan's mansion. Once the Prince Duan's mansion takes sides, it will definitely order the Tiger Head Gang to assemble and fight. Will he go or not at that time? In short, it is always better to close the door and hide. "Do you want to move to another place?" Wei Hong asked. "I have a few other small courtyards that are vacant." "What am I afraid of?" Deng Haisheng sneered. "Who doesn't know that I am a poor beheader? If someone really wants revenge, I will not be a vegetarian. You should take care of your family." Wei Hong thought about it and said nothing more. He was already thinking about where to place his family first. He was also considering whether to go to Prince Duan's mansion to exchange for bone refining realm martial arts right away. Now that he had just broken through, if he had martial arts skills, he would be able to exert his true strength once he encountered any problems, and he would be able to protect his family. But if Prince Duan's mansion was involved in this matter, wouldn't he be walking into a trap? Even if he was not implicated, what would it mean if he was drafted into the army and sent to do a dangerous mission? We have to think about this matter carefully. Wei Hong thought about it and prepared to get up and leave. Deng Haisheng reminded him at this time, "This turmoil will most likely lead to fighting. There will definitely be many deaths, and there will be constant confiscations and exterminations of families. We still have a lot of work to do, so you should be prepared." "Not necessarily." Wei Hong shook his head and chuckled. "If there is a mutiny, it will definitely involve a lot of people. How can the executioners alone kill them? It is likely that the soldiers will do it directly, and we won't even get a sip of soup." "That's right." Deng Haisheng stared at him in frustration, and didn't know how to refute for a long time. No heads to be chopped off means no money to be made, and his mood is not very good. Wei Hong himself was also secretly depressed. A super turmoil should be a good opportunity to earn a living, but he couldn't get any benefits. How could he be willing? How about getting a fake identity in the army? Once large-scale beheadings start, I will also fish in troubled waters. Wei Hong had an absurd idea in his heart. He smiled dumbly and didn't think about it anymore, and got up and said goodbye. After a delay, The number of people on the street gradually increased. The soldiers on the street seemed to have received orders to evacuate. Many people also took to the streets and began to nervously inquire about the news. On both sides of the street, brave merchants gradually opened their doors to do business. Various rumors spread among the crowd. In the panic, many smart people began to gather at rice shops and butcher shops, wanting to seize the time to buy food. The streets and alleys suddenly became chaotic. Wei Hong looked at the crowds of people with panicked faces, and an absurd feeling of looking down on all living beings inexplicably rose in his heart. When will he be able to jump out of the chaotic world by himself? Not like the world, he is always in fear. Time and fate. Wei Hong shook his head silently, turned around and stepped into Zhu's meat shop. In the shop, all the knife workers rushed to inquire about the news nervously. Zhu Sihei was also in a state of confusion at the moment, not knowing what to do. Start slaughtering pigs now. Kill all the pigs and sheep in the shop immediately. Don't leave even a single pig hair. Hurry. Wei Hong gave the order in a stern voice. Chapter 167 Short-sightedness and Falling Apart. Killing pigs? Killing pigs at this time? Yes, second in command, what's the current situation? Can you tell me? Everyone was a little confused and couldn't help complaining. Zhu Sihei also frowned and walked over and asked, what did you find out? What's the situation outside now? Should we open the door to do business? Bullshit. Wei Hong said seriously, the old emperor may die at any time. When the time comes, the crown prince and the sixth prince will have a war. During this period, the whole city will be in chaos. Let's just pray for the best. What? Everyone gasped in fear. Now people are rushing to buy rice, flour, grain and oil. Wei Hong continued, we have to close the shop for a while. The pigs and sheep delivered to the shop yesterday have not been slaughtered yet. Everyone, hurry up and pick them up. Each of you will take some back home to store later. Everyone finally understood what he meant. They were all happily preparing to sharpen their knives to kill pigs. Zhu Sihei opened his mouth to stop him, but in the end he just sighed and said nothing. Now Wei Hong's prestige in the shop is greater than his, and he really doesn't want to fall out because of dozens of pigs and sheep. But he didn't say anything, and his wife couldn't help but speak. Qi Fengniang came out from the backyard aggressively, cursing like a tantrum. What are you doing? Do you know how expensive pork is now? How dare you kill them indiscriminately? Why should they take the meat home? These are all money. Shut up, get out. Zhu Sihei scolded angrily. Mr. Zhu, you are turning your elbow outward, right? Qi Fengniang was so angry that she cursed. Now it's a mess outside, everyone is scrambling for rice, flour, grain and meat, and the price of meat has risen several times. You don't hurry up to kill pigs and sell meat to make money, and you still want to take all the pigs and sheep in the shop home? Bah, you are dreaming. Do you deserve to eat? Everyone's face flushed after being scolded, and they dared not refute. Xiao Wei, our old Zhu has been very kind to you, and you treat him like this. Qi Fengniang sneered, you want to take advantage of the chaos to rob the butcher shop, right? I dare not. Wei Hong was too lazy to talk nonsense with such a woman who only cares about money, and sneered, since sister-in-law is afraid that we will take advantage of it, you can sell the pigs and sheep as you like after they are slaughtered. Each brother will take 50 kilograms home, and I will pay you 10 times the market price. What do you think? That's more like it. Qi Fengniang smiled with satisfaction. Xiao Wei, you are sensible. It's not my fault that I have a loud voice. It's just that this world is a good time to make money. How can we miss it? Don't you think so? Everyone should work quickly, and we can make a lot of money. Everyone looked at her as if she were a fool. Zhu Sihei also looked at Wei Hong with a helpless smile. They both knew that after this battle, Zhu's butcher shop might fall apart again. With such a stupid daughter-in-law who couldn't figure things out, who would dare to cooperate with him? Zhu Sihei? Why are you staring at me? Get to work. Qi Fengniang once again put on the airs of a master's wife. But the crowd still did not move, even Zhu Sihei's orders were useless. Everyone just looked at Wei Hong, waiting for his orders. Kill the pig. Wei Hong ordered coldly. After killing the pig, everyone takes 50 kilograms away, and then rest for a while, and go back to work when the turmoil is over. Hide at home and don't run around. Rest? Why should I rest? Qi Fengniang wanted to throw a tantrum. But everyone ignored him and started to work. Zhu Sihei sighed and apologized. Brother Hong, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for this matter. May you wish me the best. Wei Hong nodded to show his understanding, but also showed his attitude of breaking off relations with him. When he first entered Zhu's meat shop, he was taken care of by Zhu Sihei. Later, when he and Tan Fei fell apart, he chose to support him to reopen the meat shop. There was no grudge between the two. Now Qi Fengniang is acting like this, it is impossible for the two to cooperate. Everyone present understood that after this turmoil, either Zhu's meat shop would no longer be named Zhu, or Wei Hong would start his own business with everyone. In short, it would be impossible for Qi Fengniang to show off her power as the master's wife. Therefore, the butchers were too lazy to pay attention to her, and even too lazy to pay attention to Zhu Sihei. After working hard for half a day to slaughter all the pigs and sheep in the shop, everyone was given dozens of pounds of meat and held them in their hands. Everyone looked at Wei Hong again. This is the money for the meat. Wei Hong threw down a few hundred taels of silver notes, turned around and took everyone away. Hey, hey, hey. Qi Fengniang jumped anxiously. Don't leave. What should we do with so much meat left here? Hurry up and take it to the meat stall to sell it. Buy, you should sell it yourself. Or you can let the big stall owner sell it yourself. The butchers sneered and left in a flash. What's their attitude? Seeing that she couldn't do anything to the others, Qi Fengniang could only point her spearhead at Zhu Sihei and bombard him. Look at who you found. Now they all side with Wei Hong. Do you still have the prestige of a big boss? Pa. Zhu Sihei couldn't bear it anymore and slapped him. Qi Fengniang's cheeks were swollen and blood oozed from the corners of her mouth. She looked at him in disbelief and couldn't help but exclaimed, Mr. Zhu, you dare to hit me. I hit you, you idiot, you short-sighted woman who only cares about money. Zhu Sihei slapped him twice more and said angrily, damn it, I finally reopened the butcher shop and the business is booming. Now you have ruined me, do you know? I didn't, what do you mean by ruined? Don't talk nonsense. Qi Fengniang stammered, not convinced. Alice. Zhu Sihei sighed and said in despair, you are such an idiot. Do you really think that a big stall owner like me can still call the shots in the butcher shop? You have offended Wei Hong for a few hundred kilograms of meat. This shop will not be able to run in the future. As long as he waves his hand, everyone will follow him to start their own business. Why don't you understand the ways of the world? How can it be as exaggerated as you say? Qi Fengniang obviously didn't believe it. Zhu Sihei was so tired that he didn't want to say more. He knew that his fate with Wei Hong was over. It would be difficult for him to survive in this industry in the future. He should think of a way out early. At the same time, Wei Hong quickly returned to the courtyard of Runai Lane, settled all the boys and girls including Luan Zioki, and then walked leisurely to his home. He was carrying dozens of kilograms of steaks in his hand, plus the food he had stored in advance, so it was impossible for the Wei family to be short of food during this turmoil. But Wei Hong had just arrived at the door of his house. He saw that his front door was ajar, and Chunlin, whom he had not seen for a long time, was holding her belly and talking to Grandma Wang, while Qiuju was standing beside him with an angry look on her face. What are you doing? Wei Hong frowned and pushed the door open. Chapter 168, Monsters and Demons, Ridiculous Requests. Brother Wei, you're back. Chunlin saw Wei Hong coming in and immediately came up to him with a happy face, as if she had a very close relationship with him. She raised her hand and wanted to take the steak from his hand. Wei Hong frowned and avoided her touch. While handing the steak to Qiuju, he asked, what are you doing here? Nothing, I just came back to see Grandma. Chunlin smiled. You are so kind. Wei Hong was full of disbelief. Qiuju immediately took over the conversation and said dissatisfiedly, Sister is back to her parents' home to beg for money. She wants to borrow food and move the whole family in. Do you really think this is a restaurant? Silly girl, what are you talking about? Chunlin said dissatisfiedly, I have no choice. Who knew that there would be a war suddenly? Now the whole city is in chaos. The surrounding rice shops are crowded. The price of rice has risen to several hundred coins. Who can afford it? Besides, we have old and young in our Zhou family. It is not safe to live alone outside, right? If we move in, everyone can be taken care of. Chunlin's words are justified. Wei Hong understood the cause and effect, and couldn't help asking, in other words, you want your whole family to move in and eat and live in my house, and let me protect your safety? No, no. Chunlin said embarrassedly, I just think that family members help each other. Brother Wei, you should not mind, right? There are many rooms here, And my mother-in-law and husband can also live here. You are good at arrangement. Wei Hong sneered. Grandma Wang and Qiuju were already ashamed. Old Wei was holding Yuan and didn't know what to say. When Chunlin was still a little girl, she wasn't so weird. But after getting married, everything was centered around her husband's family. She was very good at making plans. But did she really think Wei Hong would agree to such a ridiculous thing? Not to mention how much trouble it would be if the Zhou family moved in. Even with Yuan Yun's identity, it was impossible for them to meet. During a war, all kinds of monsters and demons emerged. Wei Hong rubbed his eyebrows impatiently. First, Qi Feng Niang made a scene, and then Chunlin came to ask for help. He really didn't have much patience to deal with these people. Chunlin opened her mouth and wanted to say something. He raised his hand impatiently to interrupt. Have you forgotten what I said when you got married? Chunlin was stunned and looked a little confused. Obviously, she couldn't remember what he said. Wei Hong sneered and said word by word, I told you not to bring outsiders back to the Wei residence, and not to reveal the matter of Yuan Nigan to the Zhou family. If you can't do it, I will kill you myself. Chunlin was so scared that she took a few steps back, holding her stomach. Her little face had already turned pale. Grandma Wang sighed and said, you belong to someone else's family after you get married. It's understandable to plan for your husband's family, but you shouldn't think about draining your parents' home to help your husband's family, and you shouldn't think about bringing your family here to be protected by Hanzher. If you are so ignorant, how can your sister and I have the face to continue living here? But Grandma, the price of rice and flour on the street has increased more than 10 times, and our family really has no food. Chunlin covered her face and cried, and the Zhou family is adjacent to the slums, which is usually very messy. Now it's not safe at all. How do you want us to live? I still have your great-grandson in my belly. This is something your husband should consider. Grandma Wang closed her eyes reluctantly, and finally sighed. When you got married, I took out my coffin as a dowry. What else do you want us to do? Brother Wei doesn't care about me, and Grandma doesn't care about me either. You can't just ignore me, can you? Chunlin looked at Qiuju again, pleading, now you are the shopkeeper of the King Chamber of Commerce's pharmacy. I heard that the pharmacy is making a lot of money every day, and you are also making a lot of money. Can you bear to watch me die without helping me? What does the pharmacy make money have to do with me? Do you think I will steal money? Qiuju was so angry that her face turned red, but Chunlin still didn't believe it, and she was sure that she was unwilling to use money to help herself. Good sister, just help us once. Chunlin pleaded pitifully, give me 50 taels, and I will never come to you again. 50 taels? We are not rich. Qiuju was angry. Wei Hong completely lost his patience. You deal with it. He left her a word, hugged Yuan and sat aside, too lazy to talk nonsense with a selfish person like Chunlin. Qiuju's heart trembled suddenly, knowing that Wei Hong was a decisive person. He is willing to help her family for the sake of gratitude, but he will also get rid of her family because the gratitude is exhausted. It all depends on what she chooses today. If she continues to hesitate and get entangled with Chunlin. With Wei Hong's character, he will definitely choose to cut off ties with him quickly. What should she and Grandma do then? Sister, this is the last time I call you sister. Qiuju took out a cloth bag from the house and handed it over, saying, this is the 20 kilograms of food I saved. Take it back and don't come again in the future. We don't welcome you here. What do you mean? Chunlin was shocked. She was angry that her sister used such a small thing to fool her, and she couldn't believe Qiuju's ruthlessness to break off the relationship with her. Grandma, look at my sister. Chunlin turned her eyes over, and Grandma Wang sighed and tilted her head, obviously approving of Qiuju's way of handling it. Seeing this, Chunlin stomped her feet in anger, and then turned around and left with the things. Qiuju stood there for a while, hesitating, and suddenly said to Grandma Wang with a wry smile, Grandma, I'll go out and see her off. Go. Grandma Wang didn't say much. Only Wei Hong looked at her back in surprise, and soon found an excuse to chase her out. He saw that Qiuju didn't want to see Chunlin off at all. She actually followed Chunlin quietly and followed her all the way back to Zhou's house. Zhou's house is located in a small alley near the slums. It is dirty and messy here. Every household keeps their doors closed during the day. After Chunlin walked into a remote and secluded courtyard, the cursing voice of her mother-in-law Zhou Lin came from inside. How can you only borrow so little? Who'll eat this little food? Where's the money? Where's the meat? Are all these people in our family going to starve? Useless money loser, I don't know what you do for a living. You can't even do such a small thing. The whole city is in turmoil and the Chamber of Commerce has stopped working. What should we do if the creditors come to our door? Why doesn't the Wei family agree to take care of us? In the corner outside the courtyard, Kyuju silently pinched her collar. Before she could make any other moves, Jo Junai's cold voice came out. Didn't you say you have their handle? Now the people in the casino are chasing me closely. If I can't pay off the gambling debts, they will chop off my hands. You don't want me, your husband, to get hurt, do you? I'll try again tomorrow. Chunlin replied weakly. Kyuju became even more angry when she heard this, and gritted her teeth and wanted to rush in to kill people. But Wei Hong held her down silently and said in a light voice, "Let me do it." Chapter 169, Sacrifice one's own relatives for the sake of justice. The storm is coming. Brother Wei. Kyuju murmured, her expression suddenly becoming very complicated. She didn't expect that her every move was under his surveillance, nor did she expect that he could see through her thoughts and stop her when she was about to take action. Wei Hong sighed and said, Chunlin is a selfish person, and her mind is full of love. It is normal for her to go to this point for her own interests. If you really can't bear it, we can find a way to move out. It's useless. Kyuju smiled bitterly. She knows about Chui Nigun's existence, and Jo Junai owes a lot of gambling debts. In the end, she will definitely use this matter to threaten us. At the very least, she will report Chui Nigun to get a reward. We can hide for a while, but not forever. So you have made up your mind? Wei Hong asked back. Kyuju's face was cold. I have been practicing martial arts with you, Brother Wei, for so long. Although I am not talented enough and have not reached the skin refining stage, my strength is not inferior to that of an average strong man. With some boxing skills, it should not be difficult to take them down. You have a good idea. Wei Hong nodded with satisfaction and said, but it is too difficult for you to kill your own sister. Let me do it. You go outside and wait for me. Kyuju's face was tangled and trembling. But she turned around and left the alley. After a while, a few muffled groans came from the courtyard. A line of clear tears fell from her eyes. She could probably guess what happened in the courtyard. If Wei Hong took action personally, there would be no survivors in it. From now on, there will be no Chunlin and Jo family in the world. Thinking of the two sisters who depended on their grandmother for life, but eventually walked to the dead end of the world, she couldn't help crying. At the same time, she was also glad that it was Wei Hong who did it. If she did it herself, whether it would cause a huge commotion or not, she would have to live in the shadow of killing her own sister for the rest of her life. She was so angry just now that she didn't think much about it. Thinking about it now, it's really scary. After a while, Wei Hong returned to the street. His clothes were neat and handsome, and he didn't look embarrassed at all after killing someone, as if he just stepped on a few ants casually. Kyuju was speechless. She died, and the whole family died together, without suffering. Wei Hong sighed, but the few concise words could not cover up the bloodiness just now. He didn't want to do this, but he couldn't take the slightest risk. Chunlin and Jo Junai not only threatened Yue Nigun's life, but also threatened Old Wei and Grandma Wang, so they had to die for everyone. You won't blame me, will you? Wei Hong asked casually. No. Kyuju smiled bitterly and said, if you don't do it, I will have to do it myself. I haven't killed anyone yet, and my hands tremble just thinking about it. You'll get used to it. Wei Hong comforted her casually. The purpose of practicing martial arts is to protect yourself and your family. Chunlin is seeking death and is no longer worthy of being your sister. Don't think too much. Do you want me to collect their bodies? Collect bodies? Kyuju couldn't help but stop. She naturally wanted to bury her sister with honor. But it was still unknown whether the funeral could be held in this situation. If a grand funeral was held to let Grandma Wang know that her granddaughter was dead, she would probably be furious again. But if the funeral was not held, would their bodies stink? What if the neighbors found something wrong and came to inform them? Wouldn't it still alarm Grandma Wang? I'll ask someone I know from the government to collect the bodies. Wei Hong said inexplicably. In this situation, no one cares if a few people die in the city, and no one will investigate. The government will bury them in a mass grave or throw them into an incinerator, according to the procedure. Kyuju's face turned pale and she felt a little reluctant. But in the end, she sighed and acquiesced. She knew that if she hadn't made a decision today, She might have been thrown into the incinerator. In this world, people's status is unstable if they are not ruthless. Looking at the hurried expressions of passers-by on the street, and the scene where people everywhere were rushing to buy rice and flour, Chuju suddenly secretly felt fortunate that she did not choose to betray Wei Hong. With such a Ding Heishen's, her life was much better than that of ordinary people. Don't tell grandma about this. Chuju murmured in her heart, her body is not good, and she may die in a few years. Let's hide it for now. Alice. Finally, a sigh dissipated in the wind. In the next few days, the situation in Chengdu became more and more chaotic. The 16 city gates had been tightly sealed, and not only could people and animals not enter or leave the capital, but even a bird could not escape from here. The huge ancient city was like a gunpowder barrel that was about to explode. The nerves of millions of people were all tense, and they were trembling with fear at the slightest disturbance, fearing that this succession storm would burn themselves. In the chaos, various merchants raised prices, causing the price of rice and flour to soar. There were even many merchants who were smashed, looted and burned. Many desperate people seized the opportunity to commit crimes, so that people died every day, and all kinds of chaos were even more shocking. In order to ensure the safety of his family, Wei Hong decisively took his grandfather and grandmother Wang and his party to Renai Lane, and squeezed together with Lu and Zioki and a group of young boys and girls. Although the yard was a bit crowded, at least they could take care of each other. In addition, the rice, flour, grain and oil reserves were sufficient, so everyone was not panicked at all. Instead, they felt relieved because Wei Hong, a master, was in charge in person. Horizontal ellipsis. December 5th. The storm finally officially arrived. At nightfall, the emperor passed away. 9 long bells rang from the high buildings of the palace. All officials were ordered to go to the imperial city to pay their respects, and a large number of soldiers began to mobilize. 1530. Countless people suddenly emerged from the major streets. They were armored soldiers, gangsters from various gangs, and servants of the rich and powerful. Each of them had a white cloth tied on his head and held all kinds of weapons in his hands. In the dark night, they gathered into a torrent and rushed towards the palace. Kill! 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 A series of earth-shaking shouts of killing resounded through the sky. Millions of people in the city were scared to death. They all huddled at home with pale faces, praying to the gods and Buddhas, praying that they could survive this war safely. At the same time, countless masters rushed to the roofs and high buildings to watch the battle. Some desperate criminals even broke into the shops of wealthy families and began to loot them openly. A catastrophe broke out and the whole city became chaotic. The sky is about to fall. Who knows how many people will die in one night? 100,000 or 80,000? Or 300,000 or 500,000? Wei Hong sighed and rushed to a tall building near Renai Lane. This is a riverside restaurant with 7 floors. You can see the general situation of the battle in the imperial city and pay attention to the situation in the courtyard of Renai Lane. It is an excellent place to watch the battle. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. 30,000 Imperial Guards, dominant in military force. Tisk tisk tisk, the prince is so generous that he has won the support of so many gangs and noble families. This mutiny is quite interesting. He, the emperor, died at night, and the 6th prince announced the edict of his succession in public, and summoned all officials to the court. It would be strange if the prince didn't go crazy. It's a pity that the patrol camp and the military power of the imperial army are controlled by the 6th prince. This battle may not be easy to fight. What are you afraid of? The prince has a deep foundation and the support of the noble family. It's still unknown who will win or lose. On the high building, many masters came to watch the show one after another. They were tall, short, fat, thin, male, female, old and young. Wei Hong also saw a few people from Wufang among them. It seems that Wufang did not participate in this turmoil. Everyone came here just to watch the show. Therefore, everyone tacitly ignored the identity of the people around them. Even if they were familiar with them, they pretended not to know them, and just silently looked at the chaos in various places. There are crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this huge city of gods. After all, not everyone wants to be involved in this battle for the throne, and most people just watched the show. Wei Hong stood in the crowd and was inconspicuous. Relying on his eagle-eye talent, he could see farther than ordinary people. He easily saw that a few streets away, a group of the prince's men had already started fighting with the patrol camp army. The prince's men were all brave and mixed, and they should be at a great disadvantage when facing the well-equipped patrol camp army. But this is an era of dominance by force. There are countless dead soldiers and guest officials secretly cultivated by the aristocratic families. They hide in the crowd like poisonous snakes, slaughtering the patrol camp army wantonly, and every punch and kick brings great casualties. For a while, the patrol camp was defeated step by step, with countless casualties. Haha, a bunch of trash. They get the emperor's food every day but can't even beat the servants. They are really incompetent. The patrol camp has indeed neglected training in recent years, but the reason why it was defeated so badly is probably because the aristocratic families have invested a lot of masters. The patrol camp is doomed to fail. Unless the 30,000 Imperial Guards take action, this battle can't be fought at all. The Imperial Guards have always been in the hands of the Emperor. Before his death, the late Emperor handed the Tiger Talisman to the 6th Prince. There's still a lot to watch. Everyone talked about it, and most of them were not surprised at the defeat of the patrol camp. After all, they were all old soldiers who were paid by the army. They really didn't have much combat power in a real fight, and it was normal for them to be dispersed by a bunch of rabble. As for the 30,000 Imperial Guards mentioned by everyone, they were the strongest army in the Great Zhou. It is rumored that the training of the Imperial Guards is extremely strict. Only those with a cultivation level of the late blood refining realm or above can enter, and each of them is often 1 in 10,000, loyal, and fearless, almost equivalent to the Royal Death Army. They only obey the orders of the tiger symbol. Every year, they have to consume most of the royal family's financial resources to maintain their practice. Once they are deployed, they must be like a stabilizing force. Except for the legendary immortal cultivators who take action personally. Looking at the world, even the innate realm masters are not sure to escape alive from their siege, so the Great Zhou has been turbulent for many times in the past 800 years, but in the end it is still safe and sound, relying on the power of 30,000 Imperial troops. Tonight, maybe everyone will be lucky enough to see their style. Boom! A burst of thunder sounded inexplicably in the sky. It seemed that even God couldn't bear this killing. A sparse drizzle began to fall. In this cold winter night, the night wind made people feel even colder and more desperate for no reason. The battle continued, and the prince's party chased the patrol camp army all the way. Fighting took place in hundreds of streets in the 108 Fang city of the divine capital. At first glance, there were corpses everywhere, which looked like hell. Wei Hong couldn't help but want to kill and fish in troubled waters to make a fortune. Don't be impulsive. This kind of thing is not something I can get involved in. Even if I go down to fight, I'm afraid I won't make much money. It's too dangerous. Let's just watch the show. Wei Hong silently calmed his restless heart in his heart. After the battle below lasted for an hour or two, it gradually came to an end. The prince's party army began to surround the imperial city. The patrol camp was unable to resist as it retreated step by step. Tisk, tisk, tisk. It's too far away to see clearly. That's right, this decisive battle must be at the foot of the imperial city. We are too far away to see clearly. Why don't we go up and join in the fun? Are you fucking crazy? If there is a real outbreak of the innate realm or an immortal master joins the battle, we will be affected, right? Everyone talked about it. Some people could not resist the temptation and rush to the inner city, while others did not dare to step forward out of caution. After thinking it over again and again, Wei Hong gritted his teeth and followed. His figure disappeared into the darkness, and he rushed through the streets full of corpses. He quickly entered the inner city and found a high building again, just in time to see the grand battle at the foot of the imperial city. Tens of thousands of the prince's party troops howled and attacked the imperial city from all directions. Rows of golden armored imperial guards fought in formation, as if they were as firm as a rock. No matter how many soldiers rushed into the formation, they were easily killed. In this war, the skin refining realm was almost cannon fodder. The blood refining realm might still have the strength to fight, but they also fell to the ground in large numbers. Only the masters of the bone refining realm and the organ refining realm could fight against each other. Occasionally, someone rushed into the army formation, but they were quickly killed. Wei Hong could feel the powerful deterrent power of the imperial guards from a distance. He secretly estimated 1 or 2. If he charged into the Imperial Army camp head-on, with his strong defense, brute force, and the might of the broken army mountain-breaking hammer, he should be able to break through a gap in a short time. But within 10 breaths, he was cut down by the Imperial Army. Think about the hundreds of blood-refining realm and even bone-refining realm besieging him. This scene is not something that ordinary people can bear. Even Wei Hong, who holds the golden finger, dare not compete with it. At this moment, even he had to admit, he was still very weak and had a lot of room for growth. At least in the face of this world situation, Wei Hong had no advantage at all. There are too many strong people in the world. The bone-refining realm and the organ-refining realm can only become chess pieces in the charge. There is still a lot to sing in this play. Wei Hong sighed in his heart, and his eyes swept for a while and suddenly saw a tall building. There was the highest Wongsun Tower in the inner city. It was brightly lit with candles, like a bright moon illuminating the surroundings. There were many figures sitting or standing on it, looking at the imperial city, and there were dense private army guards downstairs. Obviously, the prince is probably here. Wei Hong quickly retracted his gaze and hid himself deeper. He just came to watch the show, so he must not get himself involved. If he accidentally caused misunderstandings among the prince's party, he would not be able to escape the pursuit of these people. Is the Xiantian realm still not over? Wei Hong murmured expectantly. Please vote, please read, please reward. Chapter 171 The power of immortal cultivators should not be underestimated. As the ancients said, one general's success is the result of the sacrifice of thousands of men. The battle for imperial power has always been bloody and terrifying. It was the first time that Wei Hong saw such a large-scale fight, and he was also a little shocked. Countless corpses fell at the foot of the imperial city, and broken limbs were everywhere. The smell of blood in the air was so strong that it was nauseating. It was really as terrifying as hell. The mob that the prince's party put together temporarily was no match for the 30,000 imperial guards, after all. After a fight, they suffered heavy casualties and gradually had some intention of retreating. But the prince didn't feel sorry at all from beginning to end. There was no movement on the Wongsun Tower, as if he didn't care how many people were killed or injured. That's it? That's not right. You want to overthrow the imperial guards with just this few people? What's the prince thinking? Haha, the game has just begun. How can these people break through the defense of the imperial city? Look, Xiantian realm. Amidst the discussions, more than 10 figures suddenly rushed out of the Wongsun Tower. They flew in the air like exiled immortals, and appeared above the imperial city in a few flashes. Kill! The earth-shaking shouts of killing sounded at the right time. The Xiantian realm masters raised their hands and waved their swords. The 30,000 imperial guards were killed and blood flowed like a river. No matter if you are a strong man in the bone-refining realm or the organ-refining realm, you will be shaken away and vomit blood under the powerful pressure of the Xiantian realm. Fortunately, at this time, 7 or 8 Xiantian realm figures rushed out of the palace. The two sides fought frantically above the imperial city. Every time the key roared, it set off an amazing wave of air, which made it impossible for others to get close. For a moment, the battlefield suddenly became dead silent. Everyone was so scared that they retreated desperately. This place had become a battlefield of Xiantian realm. Sure enough, how can Xiantian win without coming out? The prince actually has 16 Xiantian realm masters to help him. This time the victory is already decided. Haha, there are also 8 Xiantian realm masters in the palace, and the 30,000 imperial guards are not seriously injured. They are not without the strength to fight. Wait and see, this drama is still going to be played. The people watching the battle around were talking about it. The battle in the imperial city became more and more dangerous. From time to time, the imperial guards were blown away, and often Xiantian realm masters would punch casually, and the thick and simple city walls would be knocked down by a punch. Hiss. Wei Hong couldn't help but take a breath. This was the second time he saw the Xiantian realm masters fighting. The last time when General Meng was assassinated, he was too far away to see clearly, but this time he witnessed it with his own eyes. Even if they were several streets away, the shock wave of the fight between the Xiantian realm masters swept over, making him feel almost suffocated. How can this be a warrior? It's clearly a land immortal. The way of martial arts is so powerful. It seems that this world really can't be underestimated. Wei Hong secretly smacked his lips, and he became more determined to keep a low profile. This world is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. He has achieved a little bit of success, so there is nothing to be proud of. If he is too high profile, he will die without knowing how to die. The fighting on the city wall continued. 16 innate realms besieged 8, plus the cooperation of 30,000 Imperial guards. This war was in a stalemate, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. But gradually, a large number of casualties began to appear in the Imperial guards. They originally relied on the way of forming a formation to meet the enemy, and they could barely hold up the attacks of the innate realm masters, but the powerful bombardment crushed them again and again, and the accumulated injuries made many Imperial guards spit blood. Ha ha ha, brothers, kill. Go up, kill one person and reward 1,000 taels of silver, and the first one to reach the throat will be killed. On the street, the prince's army became excited again. Under the command of several masters from aristocratic families, they began to rush towards the city wall from all directions. The Imperial guards were hit by a double blow and began to fall in groups. Screams and wails were heard everywhere. It seemed that the defeat was just around the corner and everything was set. At this time, a bell finally rang through the heaven and earth in the palace. It seemed to ring in everyone's heart, instantly shocking everyone to wake up for a moment, and the battlefield that was originally full of murderous aura became quiet for a moment. Then, a sword light rushed out from the palace. It pierced the sky like lightning, and instantly chopped 3 innate realm masters away, and even scared other innate realm masters to retreat like crazy. Immortal cultivators, retreat. Immortal cultivators. Everyone was either exclaiming or shocked, and even Wei Hong couldn't help but narrow his eyes and stared at the direction of the Imperial city. Just when everyone thought that this sword light would kill everyone, a black flag appeared out of nowhere, emitting an amazing glow, and rolled towards the sword light. Bang, bang, bang. The black flag and the sword light collided wildly in midair. The city walls began to collapse in large areas, and the streets and houses near the Imperial city were also constantly collapsed. A large number of Imperial guards were groaning and were shaken into bloody pieces by the aftermath of the battle before they could react. The scene was very horrifying. Even the innate realm masters did not dare to intervene rashly, and all fled desperately. This battle for Imperial power inexplicably turned into a battle between 2 immortal cultivators. Wei Hong tried his best to open his eyes and search everywhere, but he could not find any trace of them. He only saw the fight between 2 magic weapons. No wonder he is called a cultivator. He controls magic weapons to fight from a distance and takes people's heads from thousands of miles away. It's really a godlike method. The royal family has always had a mysterious cultivator as a worshipper. The person who controls the sword light should be him. I just don't know where the prince invited another cultivator from. If there is no preparation, how dare the prince coup to seize power? Now that General Meng is suppressing the rebel king outside, the prince only needs to eliminate all the forces of the 6th prince in the divine capital to take power. What a good plan. The last time General Meng was assassinated, the prince had been forbearing. Wasn't it for today? He has a deep foundation, and the 6th prince is still a little lacking in foundation after all. Everyone said something. Most of them have already determined that the prince has the advantage. However, the specifics of this matter are still unknown. All the results have to wait for the 2 mysterious cultivators to fight and come to a conclusion before there can be a final conclusion. The succession of the imperial power of the Great Zhou dynasty was ultimately in the hands of 2 immortal cultivators. It must be said that this is indeed a very ridiculous thing. But this is an era where a person's military force can crush a country. There is no point in having more people or fewer people. Even the prince can only wait for the result of the fight. Once the immortal cultivator he invited is defeated, the prince, will collapse in an instant even if he has the highest authority. It must be very uncomfortable to put your fate on someone else. I don't know which side will win. But no matter who wins between the prince and the 6th prince, the other side will definitely purge the enemy. At that time, they will not send people to the prison of the Ministry of Justice, but will directly order a massacre. If I can get into the winning side, I will definitely be able to drink a bowl of soup in this purge. Tut tut tut. Wei Hong was thinking happily. A plan quietly took shape in his mind. Chapter 172, Fight to the Death and Fish in Troubled Waters. After a great battle, both the Crown Prince and the 6th Prince suffered heavy losses and were in chaos. It was not difficult for Wei Hong to blend in at this time. It would be very easy to kill and plunder when one side won. He was not interested in wealth or anything like that. But if he had to talk about killing and beheading, he was still very much looking forward to it. After all, Killing represents a lot of life. The death of the loser in a power struggle is inevitable. There is no psychological burden to kill a group of people in the chaos. After all, it is no different from being an executioner and beheading. Let's wait and see. Once the prince's party wins, they will quickly recruit a patrol camp and the Imperial Guards, and then let them start to eliminate dissidents. The victory of the sixth prince will also let the patrol camp kill people, so... Wei Hong's eyes swept across the street. After a while, he saw dozens of bodies of patrol camp soldiers. They fell in an alley, and there was no one alive around them. No one noticed where they were at night. Once Wei Hong wanted to disguise his identity, these would be the best materials. You must know that every patrol camp soldier has a token. Their tokens had their respective names and formations. Wei Hong only needed to find a normal-looking person to put on armor and easily impersonate a soldier to fish in troubled waters. So he waited more patiently. Like a poisonous snake lurking in the dark, he silently paid attention to the fighting above the Imperial City and witnessed a constant collision between the Black Flag and the Sword Light. Gradually, the Sword Light began to become unstable. The Black Flag was shining brightly and pursuing the victory, with the momentum to overwhelm the opponent. Wei Hong vaguely heard a trace of unwilling roar from the palace. "Asshole, do you really want to fight to the death? Humph. I must intervene in the affairs of the Great Zhou. If you give in now, you still have a way to survive. If you don't get out, don't blame me for destroying your soul." A female voice floated out from nowhere. The owner of the Sword Light seemed a little annoyed, but in the end he had no choice but to force the Black Flag back, and the Sword Light disappeared in an instant. In this battle, the prince won. The Wongsun Tower was filled with jubilation, and a burst of triumphant laughter was heard. The palace was filled with gloom, and there were faint roars and roars. Needless to say, it was known that the next battle would be a breakout and a massacre. Wei Hong rushed into the darkness without a second thought. He quietly went to the alley full of corpses of patrol camp soldiers, picked a tall lieutenant, and after seeing his appearance clearly in the moonlight, he raised his hand and wiped his face. The 1,000 changes Zhu made his bones and flesh change. After a while, he became the rough appearance of the lieutenant, and his height and temperament became exactly the same. After putting on armor, it was even more difficult to tell the real from the fake. Wei Hong casually disfigured the other party's body and hid it in a pile of corpses on another street, and then lay back in the alley and waited for the opportunity. At the same time, he also memorized the other party's token information deeply in his mind. Lin Chang, the left army lieutenant of the patrol camp. Wei Hong just lay quietly on the ground and waited. There would definitely be another turmoil after this war. He just had to wait. After a while, the gate of the palace was broken open. The Imperial Guards and patrol camps were forced to surrender and accept the prince's party. These were all elites. The prince would naturally not be willing to kill them all, and it was even more impossible to expect the people of the aristocratic gangs to manage the order of the whole city. Therefore, after killing the leaders of the Imperial Guards and patrol camps at all levels, the people who the prince had planted in them early began to take power. Without any waves, the two war machines were in his hands, and began to eliminate the riots in the city, and at the same time prepared to implement the plan to eliminate dissidents. Wei Hong was discovered by the patrol camp when they were checking the battlefield. He pretended to have internal injuries and fainted. After receiving simple treatment, he returned to his unit and unexpectedly found that he still had hundreds of soldiers under him. "Sir, I'm so glad you're okay. There were so many rebels at the time that we were separated from you, otherwise you wouldn't have been injured. I hope you'll forgive me." "What rebels? Shut up. Don't you know that we have been incorporated now? We are now the people of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Yes, not rebels, not rebels. On the street, a bunch of soldiers gathered around Wei Hong. Most of them had a flattering look on their faces, and they didn't realize that their captain had been replaced. They revealed a lot of information in their chatter. "Shut up." Wei Hong coughed lightly and said with an unhappy face, "What orders have we received now?" "Gather the defeated soldiers and treat the wounded. In addition, start a large-scale search of Su Qingfang. Don't let any bandits go." A middle-aged deputy general handed over a command document, which listed 20 to 30 names of officials, wealthy businessmen, and noble families. These are all those who support the sixth prince's faction. Now that the sixth prince had fled after his defeat, they would naturally arrest all of the party. Needless to say, it was inevitable that they would confiscate their property and exterminate their clans and start a massacre. There are only 20 to 30 households in Zhuangfang, and each household has hundreds or thousands of people, or as few as 10 or 8. How many people would die in 108 Fangshi? Wei Hong made a rough estimate and couldn't help but take a breath. Damn, this reshuffle was really terrifying. There is an order from above. The deputy continued, anyone who dares to resist will be killed on the spot. After breaking into the house, their property will be confiscated and their clans will be exterminated. Except for the marked targets who will be sent to the prison, and the young and beautiful ones will be sent to the Jiafang division, the rest will be beheaded directly. Yet, Wei Hong nodded expressionlessly, and only sighed that it was all their bad luck. They enjoyed power and status with the 6th prince, but when their backing collapsed, they had to pay the price of blood. The 6th prince could escape from the capital, but could they? As for killing people, Wei Hong didn't care. These people would die whether he killed them or not. Why not let him take the opportunity to earn some money or seize some martial arts resources? Gather the brothers and prepare to work, and continue to search for the injured and separated brothers. Wei Hong began to order in a cold voice, did the prince send someone to supervise the army? Yes. The deputy general looked at the 2 personal soldiers of the prince's mansion not far away. They were wearing a set of green armor, and their faces could not be seen clearly. They could only see a pair of cold eyes. Wei Hong was not surprised at all. Confiscating the family and exterminating the family is too lucrative. The patrol camp has just joined the prince's command. It would be strange if he would be relieved. If it weren't for the lack of manpower, the prince would have wanted all his personal guards to confiscate the family and take all the wealth for himself. So it is certain that someone will be sent to supervise the army at this time. At least it will prevent the soldiers of the patrol camp from embezzling too much. You too, thank you for your hard work. Wei Hong bowed his hands indifferently. Captain Lin, there is no need to say more. It is better to do things quickly. Don't delay the military situation. A personal guard of the prince's mansion reminded coldly. Wei Hong turned around and gave the order directly, gather the men and follow me. Yes. The soldiers growled in unison, their eyes full of greed. Chapter 173, leading the team to raid houses, ruthless and merciless. The fight for the throne is over. The butcher knife is raised. Wei Hong pretended to be the captain of the left army of the patrol camp, and personally led hundreds of armored soldiers to surround several streets in Zhuangfang, and officially began to carry out the purge. Bang! The red door of a third-rank official's house was blown away by a punch. Hundreds of soldiers filed in, and the family was directly frightened to tremble. According to the order of the prince's mansion, the family is confiscated and exterminated. Wei Hong shouted coldly, anyone who dares to resist will be hacked to death, and no criminal is allowed to escape. Go. Kill. The soldiers shouted excitedly. They may not be able to fight against the masters of the aristocratic families, but they can still bully ordinary people. They rushed over like tigers. My lord, it's unjust. Spare my life. Spare my life. We have nothing to do with the 6th prince, my lord, spare my life. Amidst the waves of wailing, most of the hundreds of people in the family of this third-rank official were trembling with fear. Some knelt down and begged for mercy, while others stood up to resist. The result is self-evident. All the rebels were easily hacked to death. The remaining men, women, old and young were all taken into custody. The soldiers began to excitedly search for gold, silver and jewelry. Their eyes were full of greed. Many of them desperately stuffed things into their arms. Some lustful people saw that the official's daughter was pretty and wanted to drag her into the room on the spot. Shua. Wei Hong drew his sword and chopped. Several more rampant soldiers had their heads chopped off on the spot. Waves of blood spurted out, scaring the official's daughters to scream desperately, and also frightened the soldiers who were robbing property to be stunned. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince asked you to come here to arrest criminals, confiscate their property and exterminate their clans, not to play with women. These criminals' wives, from the daughters of wealthy families to ordinary maids, must all be sent to the Jia at Fangxi. How can you get involved? And those who plunder money will be killed without mercy, and all their property must be confiscated. Do you understand? Wei Hong swept his cold eyes over everyone. Such an unreasonable order naturally made the soldiers quite angry. However, facing his cold eyes, everyone did not dare to resist. They could only temporarily suppress the evil thoughts in their hearts and honestly start to confiscate the property. Large quantities of gold, silver, treasures, calligraphy and paintings, antique secret medicines were moved to an open place in boxes and counted together, But Wei Hong was too lazy to even take a look, and let the people sent by the Crown Prince's mansion count and register them by themselves. This style made the guards of the Crown Prince's mansion look at each other in bewilderment. They thought Wei Hong would abuse his power for personal gain, or at least find a few women to have fun with. This kind of thing is always inevitable when the house is confiscated. If it is not too excessive, they will not say much. But who knew that this guy is a weirdo? Not only does he not touch women at all, he also does not allow his subordinates to touch them. He is even too lazy to look at the countless priceless treasures piled on the ground. This kind of person is simply a saint. Captain Lin has great self-control. A clerk in the prince's mansion came forward and praised with a smile, but the brothers have worked so hard, it is not good not to take any benefits, right? Wei Hong raised his eyebrows and roughly understood what he meant. It turns out that these people also want to be greedy. If he doesn't take, how dare the soldiers take? If the soldiers don't take, how can the people in the prince's mansion take? Human nature is like this, nothing more than this. It's Lin's fault, but I'm not very interested in money. If there's a suitable martial arts book, I can copy one or two. Wei Hong said with a smile, as for the money, you guys make the decision. Just don't let my brothers feel disappointed. Okay. Captain Lin is so righteous. The middle-aged clerk said with a smile, I know some rules about confiscating property. What do you think of 30%? Okay. Wei Hong waved his hand indifferently. Everyone laughed happily immediately. The middle-aged clerk meant that everyone present had a share. It was an unwritten rule that everyone should embezzle 30% of the confiscated property money. Even if someone found out, no one would say anything. The remaining 70% was enough for the prince's mansion to handle. In this way, although they couldn't hide the money secretly, they couldn't touch the women of the guilty ministers. But they could share the spoils with the people in the prince's mansion openly. How could they not be happy? Naturally, everyone worked harder to plunder the wealth of the whole mansion. Wei Hong walked to a pile of boxes filled with martial arts secrets and began to look through them casually. After a while, he had some gains. A third-rank official naturally had to cultivate his own people. He collected quite a few martial arts secrets. Although most of them were below the bone refining realm, there were also a few books in the bone refining realm. Not bad. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction. This is just the first one. If we search all of them, wow. Captain Lin, take them away if you like them. The middle-aged clerk said in return, there are many of these secrets in the prince's mansion, and there is no way to sell them. Taking them back will take up space, so just take them away. Isn't that inappropriate? Wei Hong chuckled, I just need to copy one. Copying is too troublesome, just take it away. The middle-aged clerk waved his hand indifferently. In this case, Lin will be disrespectful to refuse it. Wei Hong accepted the secret book without hesitation, and the middle-aged clerk smiled in agreement. If he took it, he would be his own. How could Wei Hong feel at ease if he didn't take it? Sir. At this time, the deputy general came over and clasped his fists and replied, there are 278 people in the Liu family, 47 of whom resisted and were killed on the spot, 72 female relatives under the age of 35, 16 of whom are the criminal Liu Qingming and his blood relatives, and 143 people are waiting to be dealt with. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows and scanned the whole scene, and coldly ordered, the criminal Liu Qingming and his blood relatives will be detained and sent to the Ministry of Justice for processing, and the female relatives will be sent to the Jiafeng division, and the rest will be tied up and sent here. Sent here. Everyone was confused. What does this mean? Wei Hong deliberately showed a bloodthirsty smile and said, the killing last night was not enough, I will kill these people. Yes. The deputy general immediately agreed seriously after hearing this. Soon, more than 100 young and strong men were tied up and pressed to the ground. Wei Hong wiped his sword silently, facing a pair of eyes full of desire, resentment, sadness, and despair. Sir, spare our lives, sir. Don't kill us, we are innocent. Sir, you can't kill innocent people, we have old people and children to take care of, how can you bear it? I will not let you go even if I become a ghost. The voices of pleading and cursing were like the sound of a demon. Most people present could not bear it anymore. But Wei Hong was still expressionless and indifferent. He knew that the cause and effect of the life and death of these people should not be borne by himself. They were all sacrificed in the struggle for power. It was a great merit for Wei Hong to ensure that no female relatives were raped during the house search. As for saving them, it was impossible. and he could only give them a quick death. Everyone, have a good journey. Everyone has their own cause, and don't blame me even if you die. Wei Hong murmured in his heart, and the next moment he raised the butcher knife without hesitation. Chapter 174 The culprit is justified. Puff. 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 Wei Hong raised his knife and slaughtered like a melon or vegetable. One after another, the relatives of the criminals were beheaded, and their heads fell to the ground. All kinds of blood sprayed on the snow, dyeing a large area of land red. The air was instantly filled with a strong smell of blood and urine. The prisoners had already wet their pants out of fear, and even forgot to scream and wail. Hiss. So cruel. Damn it, is the captain taking it out on them? It's really fucking cruel, killing so many people without even blinking an eyelid. Is he killing people for fun? Everyone in the patrol camp and the prince's mansion was scared to the point of numbness. Most people speculated whether he had some mental illness. But Wei Hong was mentally healthy. He just killed people to earn a living with the mentality of giving these people a quick death and letting them suffer less. Ling. Life plus 274, Ling. Life plus 378, Ling. Life plus 541, messages flashed by one after another. Wei Hong was just like killing wild monsters, slaughtering them madly without mercy, not caring about anyone's pleas, and without any psychological burden. It was true that he killed people, but he only thought of himself as an executioner who worked for money, so the cause and effect of these people could not be attributed to him. In just a short time, more than 100 heads fell to the ground, all killed by Wei Hong alone. At this time, there was a hint of fear in the eyes of everyone looking at him. Even if he just stood there, he could give people a sense of terrifying pressure like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. You beast, you beast. The third-rank official Liu Qingming knelt on the ground with red eyes, roaring with embarrassment and resentment on his face. How can you treat human lives as worthless? They are also born by their parents. Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this? Can you feel at ease? Master Liu, you are wrong. Wei Hong took a piece of cloth handed over by the deputy general, wiped the blood slowly, and asked with a smile, what do their deaths have to do with me? Didn't you kill them? Bullshit. Liu Qingming said angrily, do you really think everyone is blind? It was you who chopped off their heads one by one, you beast. Why did they die, don't you know? Wei Hong asked with a smile, do you think they can survive if I don't do it? They were already dead when you were involved in party struggles for power and wealth. Now I'm just chopping off a pile of corpses, understand? Liu Qingming was shocked and his eyes were dull for a moment. He looked over in disbelief, and his heart was in turmoil for a long time. He wanted to refute several times, but this great scholar who had studied the books of sages and knew countless truths could not refute a word for a long time. Besides, you don't have to pity them. Wei Hong kindly reminded, it is a blessing for these people to die quickly and neatly. You and your blood relatives will most likely be tortured to death, and your female relatives will be sent to the teaching office for good training. From then on, you will live a life worse than death, and your descendants will be slaves for generations to come, so who should they hate? No, no, no. Puff. Liu Qingming spurted out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. Wei Hong didn't want to talk nonsense with them anymore, and waved his hand to signal his men to take them all away. He was in a hurry to go to the next house. He just chopped off a total of 143 heads. Ordinary people usually give 100 to 200 vitality points, and martial artists usually give 300 to 700 to 800. Therefore, in just a cup of tea, he harvested 30,000 to 40,000 vitality points, which is comparable to the income from slaughtering pigs for 1.5 months. How could he give up such a big benefit? Therefore, Wei Hong conscientiously played his fake identity, and took his men to raid the houses of officials, wealthy businessmen, and big families one after another, and he was very happy to chop people. For several days in a row, the capital of the gods was in turmoil. The name of Lin Chang, the captain of the left army of the patrol camp, began to spread quietly in the market. Someone made a few statistics and found that he had killed thousands of people in just a few days. This number is so scary to say. Even the most cruel and bloodthirsty lunatics couldn't help but be stunned after hearing about his deeds. Lin Chang's name gradually reached the terrifying level that could stop children from crying at night. With such a high-profile behavior, Wei Hong not only caught a prince's eye, but also caused dissatisfaction among many powerful people. The relationship between officials in the court is complicated. Even if they are from different factions, they may have relatives. Wei Hong didn't know who he would offend after killing so many people. So after completing the beheading task, he gave up the identity of Lin Cheng without hesitation, and quietly returned to Anlafang, and continued to be his butcher. When the prince, who was preparing for the coronation ceremony, took time out and wanted to summon this legendary crazy killer, he had already evaporated, leaving the people of Chengdu with countless topics to talk about. 7 days later, the turmoil gradually subsided. The prince officially inherited the throne under the kowtow of all officials, and was honored as Emperor Yongjin, changed the reign title to Rend, and issued a special amnesty to the world to reduce taxes. For a time, Chengdu was jubilant and the people of the world were encouraged. General Meng led the army to suppress the rebellion and showed his submission to the new emperor. The anti-kings in various places also showed signs of decadence one after another, and the great Zhou had hope of prosperity again. But at this time, the new emperor issued an order to confer the title of national teacher. And he spent a fortune to build a luxurious state master's mansion and an observatory that far exceeded the specifications in the ruins in the southwest of the inner city. This move was no less than throwing a huge rock on the calm water, which instantly aroused turmoil. It was rumored in the market that this mysterious state master was the one who helped the prince repel the royal family's immortal worship during the battle for the throne. His origin was unknown, but he was entrusted with an important task. It was not known whether it was a blessing or a curse for the great Zhou dynasty. For a while, people were in a panic again. However, all this had little to do with Wei Hong. He would not worry about such things. On the contrary, it would be good for him after the prince ascended the throne. First, the Prince Duan's mansion was close to the prince, and it was also regarded as the new emperor's faction. The status of the Prince Duan was still stable, and he, Li Tizhu, could still reap the dividends of his identity. Secondly, Lin Wusheng used to be a prince's party. Although he was abandoned and his family was confiscated and died during the assassination of General Meng, no one would pursue his guilt after the prince ascended the throne. This means that the little girl Lin Yuanyun can finally stop hiding. From now on, she can live openly in the Wei residence. Even if someone wants to report to the police, no one will accept it. After all, who dares to convict a family member who was once a member of the prince's party? So far, this turmoil has officially passed for Wei Hong's family. He moved back to Xianbao Lane with his family happily, and life has returned to peace again. Please vote, subscribe, and read on. Chapter 175: Upgrading to a better weapon and becoming crazy stronger. At night, in the training room, Wei Hong had 20 to 30 martial arts secret books in front of him. These were what he got from various house searches. Among them, more than 10 books were relatively superior skin and blood refining techniques in martial arts. He brought them back casually, thinking that he could increase his own foundation, even if he could use them to train death warriors. The remaining 10 books were all bone refining techniques. Wei Hong selected the best from the books in the homes of many criminals. Not only did he bring back 7 bone refining techniques, but the remaining 7 covered boxing, leg techniques, body techniques, palm techniques, sword techniques, hammer techniques, claw techniques and other martial arts. They were all picked and chosen by him from the secret books he had searched for. Unfortunately, the only things he didn't find were archery and forbidden techniques. Archery has always been a priceless treasure, and the same is true for forbidden techniques. It seems that I can only find it in the Sutra Pavilion of Prince Duan's mansion, but fortunately I still have 2 chances to exchange it. I will go there in a few days. As for these secret books, except for the bone refining realm techniques, all other martial arts have been practiced. Wei Hong flipped through these secret books with great interest, and was reluctant to throw away any of them. There are strong and agile ones among them. Any one of them is enough to make a small force fight for it. Each one is a complete inheritance. Confiscating a family is indeed a profitable business. Wei Hong was still worried that he would not be able to quickly match martial arts after breaking through to the bone refining realm. Now that he has collected so many books at once, he really can't practice them all in a short time. Fortunately, there is enough vitality. Wei Hong glanced at the attribute board, and the arc of his mouth was simply unstoppable. During the days when he pretended to be the left lieutenant of the patrol camp, Lin Cheng, he harvested lives openly without any guilt or hindrance. He killed as many as 3,000 to 5,000 people in a row. In the end, he accumulated 1.63 million vitality points on his panel. This wave of wealth almost knocked him out. You know, with his daily rhythm of slaughtering pigs and sheep, it would take at least 3 to 5 years to accumulate so much vitality. Therefore, he had the confidence to practice 8 or 9 martial arts at once, striving to make himself flawless and invincible in the same realm. There are archery for long-range attacks. There are claw skills, sword skills, and palm skills for close combat. There are hammer skills, leg skills, and boxing skills for group attacks. There are body skills for escaping, and a forbidden technique for risking life. In this way, Wei Hong has equipped himself with a complete set of perfect bone-refining martial arts. Although most of these martial arts are of the upper middle grade of the Zhuang level, as long as they are pushed to the limit, their power is still unlimited. The entry-level proficiency of a bone-refining realm martial art is 1,000 points, which is 10 times that of a skin-refining realm martial art. That means that it takes 48,000 vitality points to max out a martial art. Under normal circumstances, I have to save up for 2 months to max out a martial art, but now. Wei Hong thought about his 1.63 million vitality reserves and couldn't help but laugh. These days, having vitality reserves is considered generous. You can learn as many martial arts as you want. Let's get started, max out. Wei Hong started to add points crazily without hesitation. One martial art after another turned into a little man and kept practicing in his mind. Billions of brain cells began to work crazily, and his comprehension seemed to have been improved billions of times out of thin air. It only took an instant of time for the 7 martial arts to go from being unfamiliar to being fully mastered. The price was that the 1.63 million vitality suddenly dropped by 336,000, and only about 1.3 million remained. Wei Hong's mind was filled with all kinds of information. He kept digesting, absorbing, integrating, and comprehending, as if time had completely stopped at this moment. The next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, and began to practice his fists and feet in this training room. Sometimes his fists and feet roared, and sometimes he used his hands to transform into palms and hide out layers of palm wind. Sometimes he tore the air with claws, and sometimes he raised his feet to sweep out phantoms. Gradually, the 7 martial arts began to be integrated in his heart, and constantly integrated into his actual combat, bringing out his strength in the early stage of the bone-refining realm to the fullest. Little Fist, strong yet gentle, rushing through mountains and rivers, 3 styles and 19 moves in total, ultimate talent 6 collapses, 6 attacks in an instant, 6 punches combined to increase power, phantom sky-crushing kick, strong, fierce, vicious and ruthless, 5 styles and 27 moves in total, ultimate talent shadow shifting, movement speed increased by 180% in close combat 9 bend cloud piercing palm, agile and clever, good at defense, 6 styles and 35 moves in total, ultimate talent absolute defense, full strength palm technique, water cannot penetrate within a radius of 10 feet, defense against dark energy plus 100%, 8 trigrams Linglong body technique, good at small movements in long distance raids, 9 styles and 63 moves in total, ultimate talent flash, can instantly increase speed by 300%, forcibly change body shape to avoid dangerous attacks. The powerful Eagle Claw skill is fierce and sharp. It can condense dark energy and tear rocks with fingertips. It is good at grappling and strangling. It has 4 styles and 28 moves. The ultimate talent Tear, it can cause tearing wounds on the enemy. The wound cannot be healed and closed, and the bleeding speed is increased by 120%. The 7-star sword technique is ethereal and magical, good at close combat, and very confusing. It has 7 styles and 49 moves. The ultimate talent Cold Light, the speed of charging and drawing the sword is temporarily increased by 300%. The 18 hammers of mixed origin, it is easy to lift heavy objects and is good at group battles. It has 6 styles and 18 moves. The ultimate talent Heaven Collapse and Earth Splitting, when attacking with all your strength, everything within 3 feet around you will be devastated, giving the enemy a plus 50% deterrence. Wei Hong summarized the advantages and disadvantages of the 7 martial arts, while silently looking at the attribute board that had changed greatly. Host, Wei Hong, age 18/112, life points 1.3 million, health value 100%, realm, early stage of bone refining realm 23 out of 100, skills, withered bone magic skills entry level, 124/1000, fragments of the purifying heart mantra talent, calm mind, the rest are omitted. Martial arts, Little Fist talent, 6 consecutive collapses, Phantom Sky Crusher Kick Talent, Shapa Shifting, 9 Curved Cloud Piercing Palm Talent, Absolute Defense, 8 Diagrams Exquisite Body Skills Talent, Flashing, Powerful Eagle Claw Skill Talent, Tier 7 Star Sword Skill Talent, Cold Light, Mixed Origin 18 Hammers Talent, Heaven Collapses and Earth Splits, Thunder Lion Roar Skill Talent, Thunder Sound Body Tempering, the rest are omitted. Magical Powers, none. Skills, Herbal Medicine, Talent, Shannon Tastes Hundreds of Herbs, Purple Sun Concentrated Spirit Talisman, Talent, Concentrated Spirit, Bird Taming, Talent, Bird Language, Green Bag Medical Classic, Talent, Doctor's Benevolence, Ho's Hizzy Forging, Talent, Striving for Excellence, and the rest are omitted. In this way, Wei Hong's martial arts were almost completely replaced. Only then did he truly enter the bone refining realm and become a true bone refining master, rather than a vase with only realm but no strength. It is difficult for ordinary people to comprehend even one of the 7 martial arts in their lifetime. But he easily mastered them with the help of the Golden Finger, and his combat power increased by more than 10 times. At this time, I'm afraid he can blow up Shangang with one punch, right? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.